Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shinigami. Start with the Invisible Empire. Chapter 41. At this moment, Chenny manipulated his invisible perspective to wander around the room. At the same time, his own physical body stood up and moved freely. The two perspectives do not interfere with each other, and the thoughts are clearly visible, as if they can be used at the same time. It's an amazing experience. Is this the resonance of each other? Interesting ability. If you get the power of Shinigami in the future, maybe you can use it to make the power of annihilation resonate with each other, and see if it can really merge. Of course, this is something to say later. Chenny now has two channels to obtain the power of Shinigami. One is that if you are lucky, you will be awarded directly by the sign-in system. The second is to enter Rukongai in the form of a soul. Because Chenny owns Reiatsu, he must have the potential to become a Shinigami, and after entering Rukongai, joining Moon Academy must become a Shinigami in a traditional way. Either way, Shinigami powers are definitely something to get. It is impossible for Chenny to limit himself to the side of the Quincy. Thinking this way, Chenny continued to manipulate his illusory perspective. I don't know if other people can discover my existence. Chenny's perspective moves, floating in the palace, shuttles at will. After coming to a strange room, as soon as he entered, his sight was covered by white mist. And in that mist, 4 graceful figures were hidden in it. Bathhouse. Chenny could clearly see the state of Bambietta, goddess and the 2 little maids. The 4 of them were naked without any cover, and the scene was very evocative. These 2 little maids are also in good shape. Chenny admired it for a moment, then manipulated the camera to slowly approach. Since you can't see it, is there an entity? Thinking of this, Chenny stretched out his hand and leaned towards Jadis's body. What? Jadis's complexion changed. She suddenly jumped up clutching her body, and turned her head to stare at Bambietta as if her hair had exploded. Bambietta, are you playing tricks? Bambietta was dumbfounded. What do you mean? Didn't you pinch me? Who pinched you? Are you sick? With a strange expression on her face, Candace sat down slowly. Strange, is it an illusion? Immediately afterwards, Bambietta on the other side suddenly called out. Someone is really pinching, who? Before they could respond, the 2 little maids next to her yelled again. What the hell? Finally, Bambietta and Goddess sensed something was wrong, and instantly condensed Holy Destroying Arrow ready to fight at any time. Seeing this, Chenny teased them and left quietly. It feels really good. Being able to touch them shows that I have a body. But I can't see or feel it. What a wonderful state. However, if this state is attacked, will I also be injured? When Chenny thought about it, there was a high probability that he would be injured. After all, this invisible perspective should be his divided soul. Looks like you have to be more cautious. In this state, I don't have any combat power and resistance ability. If I really want to be attacked, I will just finish the game. Then, can I use the power of the Quincy? Thinking of this, he immediately used the blood outfit. Next moment, the originally illusory existence suddenly appeared in the void, with the lines of spirit seeds appearing. Chenny was startled. It really works. Resonance. It turns out that abilities can also resonate. Of course, Chenny doesn't want to use his abilities right now. In this posture, he is weaker than others, and using the blood costume has exposed his existence, so it is better to just hide it. Thinking in this way, he continued to manipulate the camera to move within Silver Frame City. As soon as he went out, Chenny saw many Quincy around his palace from this perspective. Some were holy soldiers, and some were knights. This made Chenny frown. Watching me. Who is it? Yhwach. No, Yhwach would not use such a low-level method. It's those guys who are looking for trouble. Chenny thought of Gerard before. HMPH, you annoying guy, sooner or later you'll have to pay the price. Saying that, Chenny bypassed these people and floated in the air. Immediately afterwards, he glanced at the throne at the central core. Chenny really wanted to go and have a look, but Yhwach was different. What if he could notice it? Abandoning this idea, Chenny randomly entered one of the palaces. But here, he saw a person. It was a black man with short white hair and a black crosshair over his long closed left eye. On his head is a bicorn hat made of green fur, with a small invisible imperial symbol on each side of the hat. At the same time, he He is wearing a pair of white gloves embroidered in the shape of an X, a sleeveless shirt on his upper body, and a fur shoulder armor on the right side of the shirt. It's him. Chenny's pupils shrank. That was the captain of the Star-Crossed Knights Guards. At the same time, he was also the first Quincy master who was endowed with the holy word. Its name is Liji Baro, and the holy character is X, which means X-axis, and the representative ability is all things connected. When seeing this ability for the first time, it is likely to be misunderstood, thinking that it is the ability to shoot spiritual bullets to penetrate the enemy. However, in fact, his holy text ability is much more pervert than imagined, and it is a kind of power that is close to concept. What he shoots is not a real spiritual bullet, but a concept of all things penetrating, which can penetrate everything touched on the 2.1 line trajectory between the muzzle and the target. Because it is not a spiritual bullet, no defense can resist it. Dangerous guy, Chenny said to himself, wanting to leave quietly. But this time, suddenly, the sacred word A engraved deep in his soul began to function, bursting out with a strange brilliance. Chenny was taken aback. The holy text has worked, and the soul power has begun to awaken at this time. Suddenly, strange knowledge merged into Chenny's mind, and Chenny gained a brand new ability. That is, holy text A, adverse, whose name is totally the opposite, adverse, completely opposite. Chenny murmured, this was his awakened holy text ability. What does this mean? Chenny failed to understand immediately. However, suddenly, in an instant, the sacred words engraved deep in the soul erupted with strong soul fluctuations. At this moment, another perspective that led Chenny to change. And this change was captured instantly by Liji Baro in the palace. Who, as soon as he moved, he immediately set up his spiritual weapon, a huge black sniper rifle named Illustration, and pointed the muzzle towards Chenny. However, with his eyes narrowed slightly, he didn't notice any existence, nor did he notice Reiatsu's fluctuations. No one. Impossible, there must be something watching. The next moment, he pulled the trigger directly towards the previously changed place. All things connected, the ability activates. Chenny's invisible body and everything behind it were completely penetrated. However, from Liji Baro's perspective, only his own palace ceiling was penetrated, which made him frown. Is there really no one? An illusion. He immediately got up, looked left and right for a while, and only after finding that there was no trace, he put away his weapon. As for Chenny, she was already stunned. What? At this moment, Chenny, who was still staying in his palace, changed his face slightly, lowered his head suddenly, and found that there was no injury on his body. Missed. No, I must have been hit. Liji Baro was quite decisive at that moment just now. Although he caught the instantaneous ability fluctuation due to the awakening of the holy text, Chenny knew that he couldn't see his perspective, but he still shot. And hit him. Could it be that my perspective doesn't actually have an entity? Chenny frowned. However, he did use that angle of view to touch the flesh bodies of Bambietta and the others. Thinking of this, he immediately manipulated his perspective, left Liji Baluo's palace, and returned to his side. After returning, he immediately launched the whole-body blood outfit. Along with the appearance of the spirit seed lines, a human form with veins emerged. It's just that there is a huge hole in the chest. Seeing this, Chenny's face changed slightly. Sure enough, I was hit. However, he was not injured. Can my angle of view be immune to injury? Chenny was not sure, and at this moment, Chenny suddenly discovered that in the hole, spirit particles began to flow, and the static blood equipment filled it up. The injury has recovered. How? Why is this soul resonance ability so strange? Or, is this actually another ability? Holy text. Chenny suddenly reacted, and immediately checked his own holy text. At this moment, Chenny was surprised to find that his holy text had changed. Holy text V. Open black lens bracket void close black lens bracket. Void body. How is this going? Chenny was startled. Isn't he the holy text A? Why is it now a holy text V? Can this holy text engraved in the soul by Juhabok still change? No, the holy text itself should not change. What changes is my soul ability that is activated and awakened by the holy text. Thinking of this, Chenny immediately stood up and came to the wall. Try the ability of this void body first. As he said that, Chenny immediately activated his holy character ability, and then stepped forward with one step. At this moment, his body became unreal. It seems to be one with this space. Immediately afterwards, his body entered the wall, and he was able to pass through unimpeded. My body disappeared. Chenny was taken aback. Immediately, he realized that he should have relied on this ability to avoid the sniper attack of Ligia Baro. All things penetrating. All things penetrate as defenseless. If one is hit, one shot as a whole. However, if one's body disappears and becomes the space itself, then even being penetrated will not cause any harm. Doesn't that mean that this ability is inherently restrained by Ligia Baro's all things penetration? Restraint. Adverse, the complete opposite. Could it be that my holy writing ability is? In an instant, a guess about one of his abilities emerged in Chenny's mind. And at this moment, his holy text changed. It became the original holy text A again. The holy text has changed back again. However, Chenny didn't care. If his ability is the same as he guessed, then his holy text should not have a fixed ability but change from time to time. If this is the case, then I have to find someone to try. Saying so, the door suddenly opened. Bambietta and Goddess came here in their pajamas after taking a shower. Seeing this, Bambietta rushed over and hugged Chenny and said, "Chenny, let me tell you, something is wrong with this palace. We were attacked by something in the shower just now." Hearing this, Chenny didn't answer, just grabbed Bambietta's shoulder and spoke. "Bambietta, come, attack me." Ah, for a moment, Bambietta thought he heard it wrong. "Attack me with your holy arrow." "No, forget it, your holy arrow is too powerful, it's still a bit dangerous." As he spoke, Chenny cast his gaze on Goddess next to her, and quickly grabbed her shoulder and said, "Come on, Goddess, you attack me, use your holy arrow." Caddis was dumbfounded. "You couldn't be taking the wrong medicine. Why should I attack you?" "It's nothing, I just want to try my holy writing ability." Hearing this, Goddess cast a glance at Chenny. "Why should I cooperate with you? Find Bambietta by yourself. Play a rebellion. Grass. This woman. Give you a chance, you are useless." Thinking of this, Chenny directly grabbed Jadisi's head and kissed her on the mouth. "Come, get angry. Come and attack me. Come. Get angry. Come and attack me." I thought Candace would jump up violently. After all, it was like this during the day. However, after being kissed this time, Goddess subconsciously covered her mouth with an unbelievable expression on her face. Immediately afterwards, she blushed and backed away one after another. You kissed me again." Chenny was stunned for a moment, astonished by Candace's reaction, but continued to speak. "Come on, Goddess, attack me with your open black lens bracket holy arrow close black lens bracket." Goddess didn't move, still covering her mouth with a blushing face. That expression doesn't look like he's going to be angry, but rather shy. Bambietta next to her got angry immediately and snorted coldly. "Caddis, you stinky woman, you promised not to rob me of a man." Hearing this, Goddess, who was still blushing just now, changed her face, and then she stared at Bambietta with wide eyes. "What are you talking about? You cow. Milk. Cow." Bambietta glanced at her chest and gritted her silver teeth. "Caddis, I think you want to fight again." Goddess immediately hooked her fingers and sneered. "Come on, do you think I'm afraid of you?" After finishing speaking, she immediately constructed a lightning-shaped spirit bow, pulled it suddenly, and shot the holy arrow towards Bambietta. Before Chenny had time to lament the violent temper of the two women. As a result, Jadisi suddenly made a move, and his eyes lit up. The opportunity is here. Bambietta just wanted to make a move, but was directly suppressed by Chenny, and then turned around to resist Goddess's blow. Covered by static blood clothes, the lines of spirit seeds emerged. At the same time, the holy text A is completely reversed, and the target is selected, Goddess. Next moment, boom, Goddess's holy destroying arrow landed directly on Chenny. Seeing this scene, the expressions of Goddess and Bambietta suddenly changed. The fight stopped, and he hurried over to check on Chenny's situation. "Chenny, are you okay?" "Caddis, you hit Chenny." "I didn't mean it, I wanted to shoot you." As they talked, the two were about to quarrel again. At this moment, the smoke dissipated, and Chenny's body, a static blood outfit emerged, blocking the blow without injury. But Chenny's purpose is not in this, but the ability in Goddess Holy Destroyer Arrow that can paralyze spirits. Originally, when he was hit by Jadisi's Holy Destroying Arrow while wearing a blood outfit, the spirit particles in the blood vessels would be paralyzed and solidified, thereby achieving the effect of blocking the action. However, at this moment Chenny felt that the spirit seeds in his blood vessels were unimpeded, and he did not intend to be paralyzed at all. Seeing that Chenny was still alive and kicking after being hit by her, and at the same time, there was no use of chaotic puppet behind her, which made Jadisi stunned for a moment. Chenny, your spirit is not paralyzed. Well, this is my holy text ability. At this moment, Chenny checked again and found that his holy text had indeed changed. Holy text I insulator, insulator. At this moment, Chenny already knew the true ability of his holy text. Holy text A adverse, completely opposite. When you choose a target, of course, maybe not limited to one, you can unconditionally imitate the opposite side of the target's ability and form a complete restraint. This is the holy text of Chenny. It's completely opposite, but if you really want to say it, you can also call it absolute restraint. As expected of the holy word A, this ability is pervert enough. Generally speaking, the closer the so-called ability is to things like rules, concepts, or cause and effect, the stronger Yamato absolute. For example, the harmony of the world of Half-Ward Holy Text B and the complete opposition of Ishida Rain Dragon Holy Text A are some ability weapons similar to causality. The Liji Baluo Holy Text X and the Miracle of Gerald Holy Text M are more of a conceptual weapon. The Holy Text A of Juhabak is even more heaven-defying, seeing the future and rewriting the future, which involves concepts and causality, and it is not unreasonable to use omniscient and omnipotent to give it meaning. At present, the complete opposite of the holy text of Chenny A is actually not much different from Juhabak's omniscience and omnipotence in terms of its concept. This is a power that can restrain all abilities, making Chenny not helpless at any time. Even in the face of Juhabak's omniscience and omnipotence, the complete opposite should imitate its opposite, generating an ability that can restrain omniscience and omnipotence. Is this my holy text? Immediately afterwards, Chenny felt in the depths of his soul, on top of the engraved holy text a brand new ability was activated. Shadow Realm. This is an ability that can move in the shadows. Inject reishi into the shadows of two people or two objects respectively. One of them jumps into its own shadow, and then it can appear in the shadow of the other person or object instantly, but it cannot leave the space of the other person for a long time. Once the time is up, it will be forcibly pulled back to its original space by its own shadow. Due to the need to inject spiritual particles at the same time, this ability is very ineffective in actual combat, and it is more used for hiding. The entire Silver Frame City is hidden in the shadow of Seraite. Here we come. Domain of Shadows. With this ability, you can have the right to enter and exit the Invisible Empire. However, it is a pity that the time to enter and exit the Invisible Empire through the ability of Shadow Domain is limited. Immediately afterwards, after the appearance of the Domain of Shadow ability, another, and at the same time the final ability, surged forth. Whose name is Destroy the Master and Finish the Eucharist. The holy body of Quincy Master is actually the final form of Quincy Master after the transformation is completed. The final form of the Quenchist needs to spread the spirit particles at an ultra-high concentration with the help of loose spirit gloves. When the wearer loosens the loose spirit glove, the surrounding spirit particles will be forcibly absorbed, which is the limit of spirit clustering, the subordination of the spirit particles. However, it is a pity that after using this form, the Quincy Master will lose all the power of Quincy and become an ordinary person. And Quincier's complete holy body is to make up for the shortcomings of Quincier's final form, which needs to rely on loose spirit gloves and completely loses the power of Quincy. The counterpoint of this power is the Zanpakuto Bankai on the Shinigami side. But in fact, compared to the extension of Shikai's ability or even the complete change of ability like Shinigami Zanpakuto Bankai, the complete holy body of the Destroyer is more of a power amplifier. Under the attitude of the Quincius who has completed the sacred body, his holy writing ability will be greatly improved. At the same time, his basic skills of the Quincy Master include but are not limited to spirit seed gathering, blood outfit, flying scythe foot, etc. It will also be one level higher than the normal posture. The best example is that Ji Lu Gop's spirit concentration is strong enough in the normal state, but after opening the Destroyer Complete Holy Body, it is upgraded to Ultimate to reach the complete spirit of the spirit affiliation. But at this moment, the technical ability of destroying Master's holy body was completely engraved in the depths of Chenny's soul, allowing him to reach the sky in one step. That's why the Quincy camp is more comfortable. It's too easy to acquire abilities. Under the condition that the basic ability of the destroyer is sufficient. With the soul shards bestowed by Audiobook, the holy words are engraved in his soul, and his soul ability can be quickly activated. This is a way to gain strength that is close to reaching the sky in one step. Compared with Shinigami, it is necessary to communicate with Zanpakuto slowly to learn Shikai and Bankai, which takes time to accumulate step by step. This is the Eucharist of the Quincy Master. Chenny sighed. It felt like he had reached the top of the Quincy in just a blink of an eye, and he felt a sense of disdain for seeing all the mountains. Of course, unlike the awakening of the holy text ability, the complete holy body is a power bestowed by Audiobook, and it can be recovered with holy. So, this kind of power, if you can't use it, it's better not to use it. It has to be a holy text. At this moment, seeing Chenny's sudden silence seemed to give him some insight. Bambietta and Goddess immediately spoke. Chenny, has your holy text ability awakened? Chenny nodded. That's right, and it's not just the holy text ability, I'll show you something even more cool. It's also my first time using it, so I just want to try it. Besides, in Silver Frame City there are always a group of blind guys who want to step on me. They think I'm easy to bully if they don't show off their muscles. Hearing this, the two women were taken aback. Chenny obviously had something to say, but he still asked. What is that? Destroy the holy body of the Master. The voice fell. Boom. In an instant, the surrounding spirit particles solidified on Chenny's body in an unbelievable way, and these spirit particles instantly solidified into a skyscraper. And on the top of the tall building, there is a cross sign of Star-Crossed Knights. The storm of Lynxie blew up the long hair of Bambietta and Goddess, making them block their eyes involuntarily. After a while, Lynxie stabilized, and in the tall building of Lynxie, a body slowly emerged. At the same time, Lynxie's high-rise building disappeared in an instant, and at the moment of disappearing, it turned into a burst of holy destruction arrows that spread in all directions like fireworks. Shish! The fireworks of holy destroying arrow instantly covered Chenny's entire palace. Shoot through all the people who have been wandering outside the palace. And at this time, Chenny just walked out of it. On the head there is a star-crossed spiritual brilliance floating in the void. At the same time, behind it, 3 pairs of 6 pairs of wings made of spiritual particles make Chenny look like a holy archangel, but the shape of the wings is similar to Satan of Hell. From a distance, its image is somewhat similar to a fallen angel. Then, what is that? This astonishing image made the pupils of Bambietta and Goddess shrink. From Chenny's body, the two of them felt an astonishing concentration of spiritual particles, so dense that it was hard to breathe. The oppressive feeling that just looking at it is enough to uproot the courage is shocking. More importantly though, it's kind of handsome. The pupils of the two trembled, and the gesture of completing the Eucharist perfectly matched their sexual fetishes. Not to mention this side. On the other side, the movement of Chenny finishing the holy body instantly attracted the attention of the strong in the entire Silver Frame City. Many Star-Crossed Knights who had not yet appeared stepped out of their palaces and looked in Chenny's direction with solemn expressions. This is the brand new Quincy Master's holy body. Moreover, this concentration of spiritual particles is not the intensity in the general sense. As that Chenny, the Quincy Master who was bestowed with the holy word A by His Majesty Audiobook. At this moment, there are different opinions in the entire Silver Frame City. Hasward looked through the window at the slowly dissipating high-rise Lynxie, and faced it silently. Busby, who was imprisoned in the claustrophobic room for attacking Chenny, frowned. This is the Quincy Master's holy body. A model I've never seen before. For a moment, he thought of something, then grinned. As that guy, he has been endowed with the holy word by Audiobook. Very good, next time, I will defeat him head-on. However, at this moment, a voice came from next door to the claustrophobic room. That's a special room, no, a special prison. Inside, a monster is imprisoned with a special Quincy enchantment. Because his ability is too random, if he is not restricted and allowed to move freely in Silver Frame City, it is likely to cause large-scale damage. Busby, in my imagination, you are not as strong as him. What? Busby snorted coldly, wanting to refute, but he swallowed the words. He felt that there was no need for him to quarrel with this monster, since he couldn't get out anyway. However, this power is the same as I imagined. He is not as strong as me. In this special prison, no one else is locked up. It is the Quincy Master with the most reckless ability in the entire Star-Crossed Knights. Its name is Grammy-Themius. The sacred text is V, which means visionary, and represents the ability. Dreamer. Gerald Valkyrie immediately noticed the explosion of the power of Cheney's Quincy Master's Eucharist. At this moment, even though he was in his own palace, he grinned and disappeared directly. Hee, has that guy already obtained the power of the Quincy's holy body? In other words, the ability of the holy text has been awakened. Exactly, let me see if you are worthy of the holy text bestowed by His Majesty. He quickly approached Cheney's palace, but before he arrived, he suddenly felt as if he was paralyzed on the way. Boom, he fell heavily to the ground, directly losing his ability to move. What? Gerald's face changed, and he moved his still-moving head at random to look around, and found that he was in a pond with a high concentration of spiritual particles at the moment, and he immediately reacted. Roar, Askin, what are you doing? Interfering with me. Don't be sneaky, get out of here. Oh my God. The voice fell, and a leisurely voice came from a distance. Then I saw Askin walking out from a corner next to him. Gerald, don't be so irritable. A guy like you who has nowhere to release his energy all day long, you should lie down on the ground and calm down. At this moment, seeing Askin, Gerald's face changed slightly. It really is you, a despicable fellow like you, who knows how to release poison in invisible places. Hearing this, Askin smiled. It's not poison, it's just a high concentration of spirit particles, but you can't bear this level of spirit particle concentration anymore. Holy Text D, Death Dealing, Lethal Dose. This is the Holy Text ability of Askin, who is the bodyguard of Yuhabak. The toxic lethal dose of a substance can be changed by ingesting a substance itself. For any substance, there is a lethal dose for the human body, and once a substance is ingested that exceeds the lethal dose, it will be fatal. And Askin can think of the lethal amount of manipulating substances. At this moment, Askin manipulated the data of the lethal amount of spirit particles to drop it to an extremely low value. Therefore, a slightly higher concentration of spirit particles was enough to cause Gerald to fall into a state of poisoning and death, making him unable to move. This is open black lens bracket spiritual poisoning close black lens bracket. I think I may have read it wrong. Just now you didn't want to find fault with Cheney, did you? As he spoke, Askin narrowed his eyes slightly. This made Gerald grin. What? Is there a problem? You may have forgotten that in the Star-Crossed Knights private fighting is strictly prohibited. If you really want to fight, you can go to the arena, or do you want to break the rules? Gerald grinned at Askin's words. No achievements, no battle achievements. If you have no strength, you won't be worthy of His Majesty's sacred text A. This is a broken rule. Askin, don't get in my way. Hearing this, Askin just shook his head. I'm not getting in your way. It's helping you, you should think about how to thank me. As he said that, two people suddenly came out next to the high concentration spirit pool, looking at Gerald calmly. Askin immediately spread his hands. Gerald, if I hadn't stopped you, these two would be the ones who would attack you later. Seeing these two people, Gerald's pupils shrank suddenly, and he couldn't help but speak. Captain Hasward, and Captain Leggett Barrow. As he spoke, his voice became weaker. Seeing this, Askin immediately released his ability, and Gerald recovered from the poisoned death state, and then stood up. Leader, Captain, it's Cheney, that guy killed many of my subordinates. Hearing this, Hasward just looked at him coldly. Order my subordinates to monitor the Knight of the Star Cross who was personally bestowed with the holy letter A by His Majesty. I can regard this as your provocation to your Majesty. Gerald's face changed slightly. I don't mean that to His Majesty. Go back. For him, His Majesty naturally has his own arrangements. Legia Barrow didn't say much, just snorted coldly. After being scolded, Gerard glanced at Cheney's direction unwillingly. finally shook his head and chose to give up. The regiment leader and the captain are here at the same time. It is impossible for him to break the rules of the knights and take action, otherwise he is afraid that he will be executed. No one can break the rules set by His Majesty. Not to mention this side. After Chenny opened the Eucharist, he instantly killed the Quincy hiding around his palace to monitor him. From Chenny's point of view, there was a high probability that Gerard had installed it. I thought that with Gerard's impulsive personality, Chenny would immediately rush over to fight him after Chenny killed his subordinates. At that time, he can use the Knight's Order's rules that prohibit private fighting to let Hasward deal with Gerald, but he didn't expect that guy to come. It's strange, he's so calm. Chenny could tell that Hasward was meticulous in his work. Although when Busby was looking for trouble before, the other party excused himself on the grounds that Chenny was not yet a star-crossed knight. However, if Gerard called, the meaning would be different. Chenny is already a star-crossed knight at this moment. After waiting for a while, after confirming that there was no wave of spirit particles, Chenny immediately put away his complete holy body. It's a pity that I didn't come. Chenny also wanted to rely on this to make that Gerard calm down for a while. Although he would not be executed if he committed a crime, at least he would not be dangling in front of him. What's more, if you just call like this, Chenny can still try his strength to finish the holy body. What's the pity? At this moment, Chenny was heard muttering to himself. Both Bambietta and Candace looked puzzled. A guy with a brain full of muscles. I wanted to use him to try the strength of the holy text and complete the holy body. By the way, I tricked him again, but I didn't expect to be fooled. Who is it? Gerald Valkyrie, Your Majesty's personal guard. Hearing this, the faces of the two women changed slightly. Chenny, when did you mess with this monster? What made me provoke him? Obviously he came to provoke me. But, I'm not easy to provoke. All the guys that I wrote down in my notebook, I will beat them back one by one. All the guys that I wrote down in my notebook, I will beat them back one by one. As Chenny said, there was unspeakable evil on his originally handsome face. This caused Bambietta and Goddess to tremble, and couldn't help but feel a chill. First of all, the Turkey Man. Turkey Man. The two remembered Busby who had come to find fault before. Caddis immediately spoke. Didn't you already call back? When? It's time for the head to stop you from fighting. Candace thought about it. Didn't the leader stop his flame attack? In the end, you released that holy arrow and wounded him. Oh, you said that. I called for you. Hearing this, both Goddess and Bambietta were taken aback, very puzzled. Bambietta even asked questions directly. Chenny, tell me honestly, have you been having an affair with Goddess already? Why do you say that? Chenny glanced at Bambietta. You didn't treat me like this before, you treat me differently. If it were you before, you wouldn't care if Goddess was beaten to death. Hearing this, Chenny scratched her head in embarrassment, and said with a smile. Didn't it go too far before? Did you make her cry? I'm sorry. Then, Bambietta and Goddess suddenly froze. They looked at Chenny at the same time. At this moment, the same idea popped up in their minds at the same time. Good kawaii reason. At the same time, Bambietta felt that he had found another reason to handle Chenny. One is to eat soft but not hard. The other one is guilt. Of course, it's such a pity that such a beautiful little hand has scars before I touch it. As Chenny said, he pulled Jadisi's arm. At this moment, although the trace of spiritual repair could be seen, it was not obvious anymore. Obviously, under the stimulation of spiritual restoration, Jadisi's original body has begun to regenerate, and it is only a matter of time before it returns to its original appearance. At this moment, seeing Chenny holding Jadisi's hand, Bambietta frowned and turned to look at Jadisi. It turned out that she was just blushing and staring blankly at Chenny in a daze, without any intention of withdrawing her hand. Thinking of this, Bambietta gritted her teeth. Jadisi is a dog than a woman, and she agreed not to rob me of a man. So, the previous attack on the Turkey Man doesn't count. He came to block me once, and I will return it. It's just right, let me get acquainted with my holy text ability. You two will be with me when the time comes. Hearing this, the two women suddenly froze for a moment. We're going to. Of course, the two of you are my adjutants now, and I shoulder the heavy responsibility of you becoming star-crossed knights. Both of you are candidates for the Star-Crossed Knight. The reason why you have not been given the holy text is most likely because a certain foundation of the Quincy is too weak to meet the requirements. When the time comes, come and see the world with me, and watch the battle between the Star-Crossed Knights. Strengthen your foundation. I still dream of forming my harem female knights in Star-Crossed Knights. Only by forming your own small power group can you gain a firm foothold in Star-Crossed Knights. Otherwise, the result would be like the current self, endowed with the holy word A, who would shoot the bird out of the head, and anyone would want to step on it. However, the eyes of the two women changed slightly when they heard this, and then they gave Chenny a smirk. You are dreaming. After a while, Chenny dismissed the two women, preparing to continue researching his own soul resonance. However, at this moment, a new notification sound came from Chenny's system. Ding! Congratulations host, there is a new check-in task. Sign-in task. Please go to the place with the most dense spirit seed density in Soul Society Rukongai Zaraki district to sign in. After sign-in, you will get a sign-in reward. Coming. Brand new check-in tasks. At the same time, the check-in location finally changed, not in Invisible Empire but in Soul Society. Chenny sat on the bed, rubbing her chin and thinking. Soul Society, it's not easy to get in. Field of Shadow has a passage to Soul Society but it has been blocked by Yuhabak. If you force it to open, it is tantamount to exposing Invisible Empire to Soul Society in advance. At that time, Yuhabak will be the first to kill himself. So, going directly to Soul Society through Shadow Domain is definitely not possible. Then, by conventional means. There are only two ways to enter Soul Society in a conventional way. First, follow a certain Shinigami to enter the Soul Society through the open black lens bracket boundary gate close black lens bracket. Although Chenny is confident that he will not be discovered by the fellow Shinigami, but if he uses this method to enter Soul Society, the Technology Development Bureau will be the first to discover him. After all, Gote 13's Kurosaki Mayuri is not vegetarian. Then there is the second method, through Shinigami's soul burial, let the soul flow into Soul Society by itself. However, this approach was directly shot. Could it be that in order to enter Soul Society I have to commit suicide once? Quite funny. The conventional method doesn't work, there are only unconventional methods. Chenny thought of someone, Urahara Kazuki of Karakura Town. Perhaps, he will be the key to entering Soul Society. However, the premise is that Chenny can make Urahara Kazuki agree. We have to prepare in advance. Chenny sighed. Soul Society is a must to enter, otherwise the task of signing in will be put on hold. Then, the holy text ability is his reliance. When going out, Invisible Empire's identity must not be exposed, otherwise if Soul Society finds out, they may be chased and hacked. Therefore, the basic skills of the Quincy Master should be used as much as possible. The holy text ability is his trump card for walking around. HMPH, sure enough, I have to adapt to the power of the holy text first. Turkey man, let me beat you even the sky. And that miracle man. No one can let go of the person who wrote it down in a small notebook. In the claustrophobic room, Busby, who had been imprisoned for 3 days, sat up and stretched, and couldn't help yawning and snorting coldly. I didn't expect to stay in this ghostly place for 3 days as Star-Crossed Knight. While talking, Busby recalled the previous conflict with Chenny. The Quincy, who received the same treatment as Hugo, was endowed with holy text and obtained the complete holy body of the Quincy. I don't know what holy text ability that guy will acquire. He still remembers what Chenny ridiculed before, but unfortunately, now that Chenny has obtained the holy text, it means that he has become a Knight of the Star Cross. He couldn't take another shot. Brat. The more Busby thought about it, the more irritable he became. At the same time, Chenny's words made him think about it for 3 full days in the confined room. Am I really jealous of Hugo? Before meeting Yuhabak, he really regarded Harsward as his younger brother, and he had an idea of protecting him. However, when he discovered that his power came from Harsward's instinctive power, he couldn't even explain the complicated emotions. Unequal relationship, unwillingness and jealousy. Speaking of which, I'm really a clown. Scratching his head, Busby didn't think about it anymore, and then went out from the confined room, but as soon as the door opened, a person stood in front of him. The moment he saw this person, Busby's pupils shrank suddenly. It's you. Hey, I haven't seen you for 3 days. It looks like you're having a good time in there. Did you reflect on yourself? Turkey man. Chenny grinned and waved towards him. The appearance of Chenny surprised Busby, and he frowned. What a vicious guy. Did you come here specially to see the joke? Looking at a joke, Chenny smiled. I don't have such a bad taste. Before I became Star-Crossed Knights, I came to snipe me. Don't think that this matter can be settled if Hasward comes forward. I'm very vengeful. As he spoke, Chenny pointed to a direction far away. Let's go. Go to the arena to practice. Hearing this, Busby grinned, as if he knew Chenny's purpose, and then spoke. So that's the case, can't you swallow this breath? So, after getting the holy text bestowed by Yuhabak, I immediately wanted to come to my door. However, don't you think that the level of flames last time is my strength? Did you really think that after obtaining the awakening power of the holy text, you would be able to handle me? Hearing this, Chenny just shook his head and spoke calmly. Sorry, I never thought about it that way. I think you seem to have misunderstood something. Because I never put you in my eyes. At your level, it is only suitable for me to practice and let me familiarize myself with the ability of holy words. The moment he heard these words, Busby's eyes revealed an unprecedented fighting spirit. The temperature of the spirit particles around it suddenly rose at this moment, and instantly turned into a wave of high temperature, spreading out circle by circle. Big words. In this case, let's go to the holy map arena. This time, there is no Hugo to stop it. The voice fell. A figure suddenly appeared next to him. He has a childlike appearance, with messy blonde hair, youthful features and red eyes. Although he was wearing the white uniform of the Star-Crossed Knights, he had transformed it into a loose windbreaker with a hood and a high collar. I want to go too. As soon as he appeared, he spoke calmly, with a contemptuous smile on his face, and then looked at Chenny. Yesterday I felt the complete Eucharist of your Quincy master, so today I want to see if you are the same as I imagined. Busby next to him couldn't help frowning when he saw this person. Grammy Themius, a monster that even he didn't want to provoke, was kept in a claustrophobic room. Just now, he said to Chenny, is it the same as I imagined? Busby knew what that meant. He said before that Buzz was better than Chenny. This couldn't help making Busby unhappy. You guy, have you received the order from His Majesty Juhabak to come out? Hearing this, Grammy Temu just glanced at Busby and spoke contemptuously. What, do you have an opinion? While speaking, a powerful wave of spiritual energy came from the claustrophobic room sealed by the barrier. Busby, who sensed what was going on, immediately reacted. The Grammy Themius in front of him was not his true self at all. But, is life created? HMPH, it really is a monster. Chenny also found Grammy Tomau's true self, and just smiled. Grammy Tomau, a Quincy master with the ability to make random things like dreams come true. Unfortunately, in the Bloody Battle chapter, he ran into Zaraki Kenpachi after his power was liberated. This guy is indeed a monster. The Holy Map Arena, which has the richest spiritual seeds in the entire Silver Frame City, is a place dedicated to adjutants and their Star-Crossed Knights fighting. Coming here, at this moment, Bambietta and Goddess had followed Chenny's order early and waited here to watch the battle. Grammy Tomo stepped aside consciously. He was not interested in this kind of battle, because, in his imagination, he should be the strongest existence in the entire Star-Crossed Knights. With a wave of Busby's hand, the sacred text flame appeared. He looked at Chenny with a grin, and said, "Let me see your holy writing ability. This time, I won't limit my flame temperature like last time. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance to make a move." Hearing this, Chenny just ticked his fingers towards Busby. I said, you are only worthy of giving me the ability to practice the holy script. Still talking hard, the temperature on Busby's body climbed to ultimate in an instant, so much so that Bambietta and Goddess, who were outside the holy picture arena, both felt the scorching heat of their skin. This guy, the flame temperature is even higher than last time. Last time, he didn't use his full power at all with his holy character ability. At this moment, Busby raised his right hand, pointed his index finger at Chenny, and snorted coldly. Burning fingers, 1. Boom. The pillar of flame that came bombarding him broke through the shocking dense spiritual particles, and came directly to Chenny with a high temperature that could melt everything. Chenny was unmoved by this. The power of the holy text in the body is activated. Totally the opposite. Sacred text variation. Holy text open black lens bracket F close black lens bracket. Freeze. Completely frozen. Then, like Busby, Chenny also stretched out his index finger, aiming at the flying pillar of flames, and the corner of his mouth moved slightly. Frozen fingers, 1. Frozen fingers, 1. Kacha kacha. In an instant, Chenny's outstretched index finger turned into ice, and from the fingertips, a shocking cold burst out in an instant. This cold air soared into the sky, and the link sea around Chenny seemed to freeze at this moment. Immediately afterwards, this cold air was instantly compressed into ultimate, turning into a blast of cold air and directly facing the fire attack directed at Busby. Boom! Flames and cold air intertwined at this moment, and a shocking impact erupted, and the steam all over the sky directly deprived him of his sight. Busby's face changed slightly when he saw this scene. He was very surprised. His holy text ability is actually ice, that is the opposite of my flame. However, the name of this move, is it mocking me? However, a smile soon appeared on Busby's face. It's really unlucky. It turned out to be the holy text ability that I restrained. The voice just fell. Kacha kacha. In the mist of water vapor, there was the sound of freezing ice. Busby's face changed slightly, and immediately after, he saw the burning flame he shot out of the cold air being shattered by the ice at an extremely fast speed. Seal up. The frozen flame turned into an icicle and stretched out in an instant, invading into his fingers in the blink of an eye, freezing his entire arm directly. Varied. Busby's face changed drastically, and he quickly withdrew his hand. With the fracturing of the flame icicle, Busby prevented the further invasion of the ice, but even so, his entire arm was also frozen. It actually freezes my flame. At this moment, Chenny's body slowly emerged from the smog that filled the sky. A layer of frost condensed on his body, which was surrounded by cold air, and every time he took a step, the ice on the ground would spread out. Any surprises? Fire and ice are two opposite elements. You think your flames can restrain me, but you haven't thought that my ice can restrain you. As he spoke, Chenny waved his hand. The cold air driving the body was released, and in an instant, the water vapor in the air solidified, turning into ice flowers and falling down. And the falling ice flakes landed on Busby's body, freezing part of his body in an instant. Elements that are opposite to each other, I can restrain you. That's because I'm much stronger than you. Busby's pupils suddenly shrank when he heard this. It's just that I have just acquired the ability of holy characters. Do you really think that this can defeat me? Blazing. The violent flames surged out from Busby's body, turning into a wave of scorching heat and melting the ice that froze him. Then, he directly raised his entire right arm, aimed at Chenny, and gathered all the flames here. Burning fingers, 4. In an instant, an extremely scorching high temperature accumulated in the closed index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and little finger of the right hand, forming a knife-like flame surrounding the front of the right arm. Busby grinned, and directly sprayed out the condensed knife-shaped flame. You'd better stay away. I don't want to be implicated for killing you by mistake. At this moment, even those who are fighting on the outside can feel the threat of this move. Bambietta and Goddess even needed to use static blood equipment to defend against the high temperature. Seeing this scene, Grammy Tomau smiled even more. I was forced to this level just after the fight. Busby, you should have already noticed that the gap between you and him is just as I imagined. The knife-shaped flames galloped towards Chenny as if they were going to dissolve the entire arena. The spirit particles in the air had already turned into azure blue spirit seed flames and began to burn. This was a terrifying flame that could even burn spirit particles. However, facing this blow, Chenny just calmly raised his hands. Kacha kacha. The ice extended from the fingers, turning Chenny's entire palm into ice. Then, the moment Chenny's hand touched the knife-shaped flame, it instantly turned into an ice sculpture. Varied. Seeing this scene, Busby's face changed drastically, and for the first time there was an unprecedented fluctuation in his heart. However, before he could startle, he saw Chenny, who was emitting a chill all over his body, walking towards him one step at a time. 1 step, 2 steps. The moment Chenny took the 3rd step, disappeared. Busby's pupils shrank suddenly. At this moment, there was no time for him to think, and an indescribable sense of crisis came to his heart. The 5 fingers of his right hand instantly burst into stronger flames. Hot hell! However, before he could use this move, Chenny waved his hands towards him, and the flames in his hands went out directly. Kacha kacha! With the spread of cold air, Busby instantly turned into an ice sculpture. At this time, Chenny took the 3rd step completely, and at this moment, he had already walked behind Busby, and at the same time, the ice on his body suddenly disappeared. Completely frozen, Chenny took a deep breath, and slowly let out a breath of cold air. The entire holy map arena, including Busby, was completely frozen. Sure enough, it's just as I imagined. Grammy Tomao grinned. The strength is very strong, but the ability itself is not outstanding, and it is not comparable to imagination, but... Before Graham Tomo finished speaking, he was taken aback suddenly. Immediately afterwards, he saw a huge, holy destroying arrow shooting towards Chenny in the distance. Chenny turned around, raised his right hand, and grabbed the holy arrow of destruction with his bare hands, then crushed it in ice. Before the shattered spirit particles fell, the destroyer cross on Chenny's wrist slowly hung down, turning into a spirit particle bow, which actually directly gathered these frozen spirit particles to form a larger, holy destruction cross arrow and shoot it in the attacking direction. Back to you. Chenny's holy destroying arrow pierced through the air, but was blocked by a shield. Seeing this scene, Chenny grinned. Is it really here? Exactly. This turkey guy can't even give me a hot hand. Said, Chenny hooked his finger towards him. Gerard Valkyrie, come on. Gerald Valkyrie, didn't you expect that even the guards would come to join in the fun? When did this boring, star-crossed nights become so lively? Grammy Tomao grinned, and was locked in the claustrophobic room sealed by the barrier all day. At this moment, as if he had discovered some rare joy, he smiled like a child. Gerald made a leap of his life, jumped directly into the frozen arena, waved his shield casually, and knocked the frozen Busby into the air. There was a click. The ice on Busby's body shattered, his body was revealed, and he hit the wall far away from the arena heavily, and then couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, Busby's expression was terrified. So close. Fortunately, at the last moment, I used the sacred text flame and static blood equipment to carry the ice seal. Therefore, his body was not completely frozen. Deny, Gerard's blow alone was enough to shatter his body. However, even so, he was seriously injured. At the same time, there was still cold air invading his body, making his body tremble, making him very uncomfortable. But at this moment, a strange force descended, which immediately made Busby feel a lot better, as if he had adapted to the cold air. It's very uncomfortable. After all, he is a guy who has been given the same holy text by His Majesty. No matter how you look at it, it is not easy. Let me just say, he must be a dangerous guy. When the voice came, Busby turned his head, and then saw Askin standing there, playing with an ice cube in his hand, and said with a smile. Can you stand up? I increased your lethal poisoning to ice cubes, can you move your body? Busby moved his body, and sure enough, the body that was originally stiff due to the ice was much more flexible. Thank you. Your ability is really useful. Don't say that. Askin quickly spread his hands. When this ability was first awakened, it took me a long time to get used to it. After all, I didn't even understand the ability at first. However, it is difficult to understand this, and it is quite fatal to the enemy. It's like the current Chenny, who just acquired the ability of the holy word A and is still in the process of adapting. Busby, you have become his training object. Busby hadn't noticed before, but now Askin made it clear that he had reacted. What did you say? The sacred text Chenny obtained is the same A as His Majesty. Hearing this, Askin glanced at Busby. What, you don't know? Then you fought with him. Busby really didn't know, because he had been locked in a claustrophobic room for committing a crime before, and he faced Chenny right after he was released. At this moment, he felt more and more like a clown. It turned out to be the holy text A. It's a level higher than Hugo's holy text B. This guy, what's going on? So, losing to him is no shame. Askin smiled. In this world, there are such monsters. After all, It's like His Majesty's Holy Text A, or the leader's Holy Text B. The abilities are quite terrifying. Hearing this, Busby glanced at Askin. Do you know Hugo's Holy Text ability? I remember that you and the leader were not childhood friends. Did he never tell you? Askin touched his chin, very surprised. Busby shook his head. Every time I want to challenge him, he refuses. He doesn't know how to use Holy Text at all. The only time it was used to stop me from doing it, but I didn't understand that power. If you challenge him, of course he will ignore you. He is the spokesperson of His Majesty, and he needs to lead by example and strictly abide by the rules of Star-Crossed Knights. However, since he didn't tell you, it's hard for me to say anything. Just one thing, the leader's holy writing ability can even pose a threat to His Majesty, which is second only to His Majesty's power. Hearing this, Busby's pupils shrank suddenly. He knew the gold content of this sentence, and it was said from the mouth of the pro guards. However, the same holy text as His Majesty has appeared now, but I don't know how Chenny's ability compares with the leader. Could it be that the power of Chenny's holy text is ice? It's not worthy of the holy text A, or is the power still in the process of adaptation? Askin touched his chin, paying close attention to Chenny. After all, in his opinion, there must be a reason for Juhabak to bestow the sacred text A. Not to mention this side. At this moment, Gerard stood opposite Chenny, grinning. This is your holy text ability. It's not worthy of the holy text A, equivalent to His Majesty. I thought your ability was at least the same as that of the leader, the ability to manipulate the rules. I didn't expect it to be an elemental ability like Busby's. Gerald's voice just fell. Chenny raised his hand casually. Click. His body instantly turned into an ice sculpture. It's as if your power of the holy text is stronger than mine. Let's talk about it here. Let's do it. I really need to adapt to the power of the holy text. Just now I couldn't freeze Busby in the body with a single blow. This is because my ability is not good enough. Familiar performance. But this time, bang. With Gerald's movements, the ice on his body instantly shattered, but even so, his skin was covered in frost. Not bad performance. My blood defense can leave frostbite on my skin. However, this level of strength is not worthy of His Majesty's holy text A. If this is your best effort, I will deal with you. After speaking, Gerard's huge body disappeared instantly, which was a speed that did not match his size. After appearing in front of Chenny in an instant, he pointed at Chenny's neck and chopped it off with a single blow. However, this knife was blocked by Chenny with bare hands. This surprised Gerald. The strength of your blood equipment is not so high. I didn't break the defense with this blow. No, you cut my skin, but you didn't let me bleed. The attack power is strong enough. The voice fell. The cold air was released instantly, and Gerard was instantly frozen. At the same time, Chenny raised his hand and punched him. At the same time, the spirit bow emerged, and Chenny pulled it suddenly. The cold air was gathered and turned into a holy destroying arrow. Frozen holy arrow. Sigh. An arrow with ice burst out in an instant, directly hitting Gerald, who was knocked into the air. In the huge explosion, ice flowers all over the sky quietly fell. Facing Chenny's frozen bombardment, Gerald was unmoved. At this moment, his whole body was covered with frostbite. If it wasn't for the static blood suit being strong enough, his body would have already been shattered. The battle completely showed a one-sided posture. This personal guard. Why doesn't it feel like it's not particularly strong? At this moment, Bambietta and Goddess looked at the battle and couldn't help but speak. Before that, they were worried that Chenny might not be Gerard's opponent. After all, he was Juhabak's personal guard. Now it seems that this worry is completely unnecessary. It really doesn't seem to be particularly strong. However, he seems to have never used the power of the holy text. Bambietta's words surprised Candace, and she recalled it, and found that Gerald did not seem to use the holy script. Not only that, but they also felt that Gerard was intentionally taking Chenny's damage a lot of the time. He could dodge some attacks, but he chose to resist with his body. Is it related to his holy writing ability? Gerard's fighting style is indeed related to his holy writing ability. Chenny could tell that the opponent was deliberately taking his attack. After all, this is how his miracle is used, exchanging injury for dimension of God. In other words, the more damage Gerard received, the greater the power of conversion after using the holy text ability. Even though he knew this, Chenny was still attacking. Because he wanted to know how his complete opposite would change in the face of Gerard's miracle. If even the holy word miracle can be easily restrained, then Chenny feels that his ability is really worthy of the level of the holy word A. At this time, Gerald resisted Chenny's attack and laughed. Chenny, do you know when the so-called miracle happened? Hearing this, Chenny smiled. I don't believe in miracles, I only believe in myself. After finishing speaking, Chenny instantly condensed a stronger, holy arrow and launched it. This time, it actually pierced Gerald's body directly. Gerald spat out blood, his body trembled, as if he would fall down at any moment. However, even so, the smile on his face still did not weaken. A miracle will come. You know, miracles that happen at innocuous moments are not considered miracles. Yeah, it's really good luck. There is such an incredible thing happening. Only when this kind of thought occurs, can it be called a miracle. As he said that, Gerald's fragmented body finally couldn't support it, causing him to fall down heavily, but he was still talking. Now, everyone thinks so, right? Think, I can't win. So, once I win, a miracle will happen. In an instant, an inexplicable force erupted. The faces of the people watching the battle changed one after another. Bambietta and Goddess were shocked. What kind of power is this? Busby couldn't help but backed away one after another. Did his holy text ability activate? Ho 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 ho. Suddenly, accompanied by a gust of wind, Gerald's body changed in an instant, causing the entire arena to tremble suddenly. The next moment, a black shadow instantly enveloped the entire arena. The smoke cleared away, and what appeared in front of Chenny was a giant tens of meters tall. My name is Gerald Valkyrie, the holy character is M and the power is miracle. I can exchange injury for God's measure. After getting bigger, Gerald looked down at Chenny and smiled. It's been a long time since I've been this huge after a swap. As he said that, Gerard waved his hand casually, and a shocking gust of wind was set off, as if it could blow them away. At this moment, in his opinion, Chenny in front of him is like an ant that can be crushed to death at any time. Ha ha ha, small and weak existence, don't cry, because no matter how much you cry now, there will be no miracle happening. He is condescending, feels the power in his body, and thinks that he is invincible in the world. Regarding this, Chenny's expression was indifferent, but he calmly raised his right hand, the Linksea bow emerged, and a huge holy arrow of destruction was constructed by Chenny. Holy mia, this kind of thing is useless to me. Gerald laughed out loud, shot out instantly, and slapped Chenny with his palm. Although his size had grown, his speed did not drop at all, on the contrary, he became even faster. And at this time, within Chenny's body, the holy word quietly activated. The next moment, Chenny compressed the holy destroying arrow into ultimate, and shot it out the moment Gerard's palm fell. Call out. The holy destroying arrow galloping out burst into instant brilliance at an unbelievable speed, and then directly pierced Gerald's palm with incredible strength. Boom. The huge force caused Gerald to retreat one after another, and at the same time, the pain from his palm made his face change slightly. What? His holy Mia's power has grown. No, it's impossible for ordinary holy destroyer arrow to pierce through my body after exchanging power in one blow. Is this the ability of the holy text? Isn't your holy character ability ice? Gerald was startled, however, before he could react, Chenny had disappeared in an instant. The next moment, more holy destroyer arrows shot out. Unlimited holy arrow. Gerald's face changed, and he quickly used his shield to resist. However, his body has become bigger, and now it has become a burden. The shield can't do it at all, and the dense holy arrow instantly fell on his defenseless body. Every shot of holy arrow could indeed penetrate his body, leaving him with serious injuries. Gathering spirit seeds, holy sword. Chenny raised his hand casually, and on the palm of his hand, a shocking spirit child sword appeared, directly slashing at the huge Gerard. Puff. With blood splashing down, Gerald's chest had a terrifying wound. Finally, the injury was too serious for him to support himself, and he half knelt on the ground. Seeing this, Everyone in the distance couldn't help exclaiming that Chenny's strength had easily defeated such a powerful Gerald. Only Askin shook his head. It's useless. Gerald's miracle will continue to activate, and inflicting injuries on him will only make him stronger and stronger. This is a chain reaction that will only make the enemy more and more desperate. Sure enough, Askin just finished speaking. Gerard stood up immediately, and a miracle happened, and his injury began to transform. Immediately afterwards, his strength rose instantly, his body swelled again, and the arena almost couldn't hold him. However, this time, he failed to stand up. After the body became bigger, he knelt directly on the ground, his body trembling. He was bleeding continuously all over his body, and he was extremely weak. Seeing this scene, not only Askin, but even Gerald himself was stunned. What? My injury hasn't recovered. Impossible, the miracle should be activated. Hearing this, Chenny suddenly appeared, came in front of Gerard, and said with a smile. Your miracle has indeed started. Convert your injuries into strength. Congratulations, your strength has increased again. Unfortunately, the power of my holy text is naturally restrained against you. Holy text changes. Holy text E. Eternal damage. As long as the attack hits the enemy, it will inevitably leave wounds on its body, and the wounds left cannot be recovered by any means. My attack is eternal damage. Chapter 51. Holy text E. Eternal damage. Eternal damage. This holy text ability naturally restrains Gerard's miracle. Indeed, miracle's ability can exchange the injury suffered for the dimension of God. However, when the injury suffered is eternal damage, its power will indeed be converted, but the damage will remain. Chenny took a step forward, and in an instant came to Gerald. A large number of spirit particles gathered around him in an instant, and densely packed holy destroyer arrows were constructed. And every shot of the holy arrow contains the power of the sacred text of eternal damage. Chenny opened the spirit bow, and directly shot out these holy arrows. This time, Gerard's face changed suddenly after seeing this scene. At this moment, no matter how reckless he was, he knew that there was something wrong with Chenny's attack, and he couldn't continue to get hurt. However, right now his body has become too big, pure living target. Static blood outfit. Finally, he chose defense. In the posture of God's scale, the strength of his blood outfit is quite terrifying, and it is impossible for ordinary, holy destroying arrow to leave him with wounds. However, puff, the dense, holy destroyer arrows shot over, piercing his body again. His still blood was meaningless in front of Chenny's attack. What? It broke through my static blood equipment so easily. Hearing this, Chenny grinned. Feel sorry. This holy miserable arrow of mine ignores defense. This is the strength that the holy text A can achieve. Now, have you seen it? In an instant, Gerald was shot again, and a lot of blood splattered out. At the same time, miracle was activated, his strength skyrocketed again, and his body was around bigger than before. However, the wounds on his body showed no signs of recovery. Obviously his strength is getting stronger and stronger, but he himself is getting weaker and weaker. At this moment, the Askin people who saw this scene were all stupid. What's going on? That Gerald Valkyrie was defeated and fell to the ground. He was startled. The strength of the pro guards was recognized by Yuhabak. And Gerald as the monster of monsters. Moreover, as far as Askin knew, it was rumored that Gerald's true identity was the heart of the Spirit King, and that he could be resurrected even after death. His holy text ability was not activated by Yuhabak, but awakened by nature. Yuhabak merely bestowed the holy text. And such a guy was actually overthrown by Chenny. Sure enough, this guy looks like a harmless animal. It's actually quite deadly. No wonder His Majesty bestowed the holy word A. He seems to have some kind of changeable holy word power. Not only Askin, but Busby next to him was also frightened. Although he knew that the holy text A might be very strong, he never thought that it would be so strong that it could defeat Gerald. This guy, you have just awakened the power of the holy text, and you actually have the ability to defeat the guards. Busby couldn't believe it. Is this the power of one person higher than Hugo's holy text B? As he spoke, Askin next to him took a look at Busby. No, Chenny probably didn't defeat Gerard, but restrained him with his abilities. His holy destroying arrow is very special. Gerald's miracle cannot convert the injuries it caused. No, it should be said that it can be converted into power, but the wounds cannot disappear. In addition, because of Gerald's miracle ability, his fighting style is to exchange injuries for injuries. As a result, this time he encountered an ability to restrain him. So, Gerard's strength will become stronger and stronger, but his body will become weaker and weaker. I can't exert the power to become stronger at all. It's really unlucky. At this moment, Gerald seemed to have inexhaustible power in his huge body. However, the injuries on his body made him almost on the verge of death. Boom. The next moment, he couldn't hold on any longer and fell down directly. Seeing this scene, Chenny, who opened the spirit bow and prepared to continue attack, was stunned for a moment. Is this the end? Why didn't he activate Quincy and finish the Eucharist? Chenny was a little puzzled. He also wanted to see Gerald's complete Eucharist, God's power, but just passed out like this. Immediately afterwards, Chenny saw Gerald's huge body gradually shrinking, returning to its original size. It looks like it's over. Saying so, Chenny immediately put away the spirit bow. But at this moment, Gerard's body suddenly seemed to be shattered, disappeared suddenly, and then gathered again, turning into a brand new body. At this time, Chenny discovered that the eternal damage on him had disappeared. Miracle activated again. No, miracle can't heal wounds, this is resurrection. Is the Spirit King's heart capable of resurrection? Chenny sneered. Sure enough, the guards didn't have a single normal guy. But at this time, after his body was condensed again, Gerald regained consciousness, but he looked very weak, and he couldn't even stand upright. He leaned against the corner of the wall and looked at Chenny with horror on his face. So that's the case, no wonder His Majesty gave you the same holy text. It looks really good. It's the first time I've lost so badly. I recognize your status. It was my ignorance before, and I apologize to you. In the future, for His Majesty, contribute your strength well. After speaking, Gerard limped away, looking very embarrassed. What a great ability. But at this moment, while the others were shocked by Chenny's holy writing ability, Gremithamius, who had been silently watching the battle, slowly stood up and looked at Chenny with great pleasure. Sure enough, it's exactly as I imagined. However, the ability of that holy text exceeds my imagination. What ability? I can't imagine it. I seem to know. The moment he finished speaking, he shot directly. The next moment, two holy miserable arrows suddenly appeared in the sky and blasted towards Chenny, directly blocking Chenny's way. Seeing this, Chenny glanced back at Gremithamius and grinned. How? Do you want to fight me too? However, I'm not interested in the product of imagination, let your body come. In the distance, Askin's face changed slightly the moment he saw Gremmy Tommy. Hey, why would that monster be released? As he spoke, he looked at Busby. You let it out. You are responsible for stopping him. His Majesty Juhabak forbids him to fight in Silver Frame City. If His Majesty finds out, you will be punished as well. I pretend I didn't see. As he said that, Askin wanted to slip away after rubbing oil on the soles of his feet. Busby's face changed slightly, and he quickly grabbed Askin's collar. Hello, you, don't run away, that kind of monster, who is going to stop it? Isn't your lethal dose very good at dealing with this kind of scene? Hearing this, Askin glanced at Chenny and Gremithamiu. Ha, are you kidding me? The only ones who can stop this guy are the captain or the guards. I heard that if this guy hadn't been so messed up, he would have been selected as the personal guard. The corner of Busby's mouth twitched, determined not to let Askin go. After all, if you really want to stop it, only he can do it. And, more importantly, if you really don't stop it and blame it, Juhabak will really issue a punishment. Seeing Busby's worried look, Askin knew that he might not be able to leave, so he spoke immediately. Well, I'll stop the two of them temporarily. How about you go find the head of the regiment or the captain of the personal guard? At this moment, in the arena, Gremmy Tomau looked down at Chenny with a smile on his face full of curiosity. Because of his powerful ability, he has been restricted by Hubak in the enchantment, and it is almost impossible to get out. Understanding the outside world can only be done with this limited imagination product. Therefore, although his ability is imagination, in fact, his own imagination is very limited. Otherwise, the fight with Zaraki Kenpachi wouldn't have been so drawn out in the midst of the bloodbath. Your holy writing ability. I can't imagine, I really want to know. Hearing this, Chenny smiled. He knew the other, Grammy Themius, a poor fellow. Obviously his ability is imagination, but being restrained all day long greatly limits his imagination. However, even with limited imagination, he also has the potential to enter the SS. If it wasn't for the bloody battle where he lost to Zaraki Kenpachi, maybe it wasn't Askin but him who went to the palace of the Soul King. I said that, if you want to fight with me, you can, let your body come. I'm not interested in the products of your imagination. Don't say that. Suddenly, Remy Tomau stood up and took a step forward. Suddenly a step appeared out of nowhere in the void. He walked up the step and walked slowly towards Chenny. Imagination is the most powerful force in this world. Things I imagined will become reality. Imagination creates life. Then I really exist now, and I don't care about my avatar. He took one step at a time, and every time he took a step would appear out of thin air. It was something he imagined. Indeed, the person in front of him is not a clone, but a real living body imagined by him. In fact, even he himself is a figment of his imagination, his body is just a brain. Chenny looked at Grammy Tommy who was walking towards him, and grinned. Also, let me see, what is the opposite of imagination? The moment after saying this sentence, Chenny shot a holy destroyer arrow in an instant. The defenseless open black lens bracket holy arrow close black lens bracket, I have seen it just now when you were fighting Gerald. As long as you can't touch me, you can't do any harm. Come out with something new. I can imagine that your holy writing ability should be more than that. The moment he finished speaking, a shield appeared out of thin air in front of Grammy Tomius, easily blocking Chenny's holy destroying arrow. Clang! Holy destroyer arrow fell, and Grammy Tomau stepped out in one step. In the void, a large number of guns and weapons suddenly appeared out of thin air, aiming at Chenny. However, at this moment, the falling holy arrow suddenly changed direction and pierced Grammy Tomayu's body from behind. What? Grammy Tomau's complexion changed, and only then did he realize that behind holy arrow of destruction there was a thin thread of spirit entanglement. This is pretending to be a sky puppet. There is actually such a usage that I can't imagine, it's amazing. Do you still have time to sigh? Chenny's laughter came. Grammy Tomau suddenly raised his head, and found that densely packed holy destroyer arrows had burst towards him. Behind every shot of divine destroying arrow, Chenny is pulling the thin spiritual thread of crafting sky puppet. Spirit storm. Grammy Tomau grinned. The void spirits began to stir, and a huge tornado appeared, blowing away all the holy destroyer arrows. At the same time, he began to imagine his wounds had healed. However, it was discovered that the wound on the body that had been penetrated had not disappeared. Sorry, this is eternal damage, you can't heal. Hearing this, Grammy Tomau smiled. Since it can't be cured, then just let go of this body. The next moment, Grammy Tommy's body cracked, and another complete body came out of thin air. Seeing this, Chenny narrowed his eyes slightly. Sure enough, imagination is really a good thing, all wishes come true, if only I could have this ability. Chenny suddenly became wicked, and at this moment, Grammy Tomau had already stepped off the arena and came to the center of the arena. At this moment, Chenny doesn't plan to use eternal damage anymore. This ability restrains miracle, but it has no effect on Grammy Tomau. Immediately afterwards, the holy text in his body changed and was about to take shape. Sudden, Chenny only felt his whole body go limp, and he fell to the ground uncontrollably. What happened? Imagination can do this kind of thing. In a daze, Chenny looked up, only to find that Grammy Themius was also lying down. Not Grammy Themius, and in this state, it was as if he was poisoned. It's lethal dose. Sure enough, Askin came out from the side of the arena. Let me declare in advance that I am not trying to fight against you two. So, don't trouble me afterwards. It's just that, Grammy Tomau, His Majesty Juhabak forbids you to fight in Silver Frame City, so I can't just sit idly by. At this moment, Askin is absorbing a large number of spirit seeds, and adjusted the lethal amount of spirit seeds. Chenny wanted to stand up, but his body didn't listen. Then, holy text changes. Holy text A. Adaptability. Compulsory adaptation. Suddenly, Chenny's body regained its strength, and stood up calmly. In the distance, Remy Tomao seemed to have imagined something, and stood up calmly. Seeing this scene, Askin had a headache. As expected, they are all monsters among monsters. Am I? So I can't get on the stage. Lethal dose changes. In an instant, Askin absorbed the spirit particles at an extremely fast speed, and dense spirit particles gathered around his body. At the moment of absorbing the spirit particles, the lethal dose was rebuilt based on the spirit particles. Then, forcibly poisoned Chenny and Remy Tomao. There was a snap. Remy Themius, who had just stood up, fell down almost instantly. You are indeed a monster, but I can adjust the lethal dose value at any time, and finally choose an optimal value to put you in a poisoned state. Until help arrives, please. Before Askin finished speaking, his pupils shrank suddenly, and he turned his head quickly, only to find that Chenny hadn't fallen down. On the contrary, under his manipulation, lethal dose is changing at an incredible speed. A numerical value represents a lethal dose, and each lethal dose can poison Chenny. However, this value is constantly changing, which means that there is no exact lethal dose that can poison Chenny. That is to say, every time there is a lethal dose it will be forcibly adapted by Chenny, and then, when the lethal dose changes, Chenny will adapt it again, and so on, so that the change of the lethal dose will continue. Hey, you, what kind of monster are you? Askin froze. He didn't know what Chenny had done, but he felt that his lethal dose was almost unable to trap him. As for Chenny, she was actually surprised. Every time the lethal dose changes, although he can forcefully adapt, because the lethal dose is constantly changing, he can only maintain this state without falling down. In other words, he will continue to switch between poisoning and adaptation. Of course, if there is a limit to the value of lethal amount that poisons him, sooner or later he will be given adaptation by Chenny. But, it seems that Chenny's complete opposite has sensed the limit of this holy text. His holy text changed again. Holy text E. Evolution. Unlimited evolution. Then, almost instantly, Chenny felt a certain change in his body, and the feeling of being poisoned by spirit seeds disappeared immediately. What, is this a breakthrough? The moment he realized that the lethal dose had expired, Askin felt as if he had seen a ghost, and was extremely surprised. No, it's not adaptation. His body has undergone some kind of evolution. Antibodies against spirit seed poison have been produced in the body. How can it be? Askin felt that Chenny was challenging his cognitive bottom line. He felt completely incomprehensible to Chenny. What kind of ability did your holy text A awaken? How come there are so many power changes? Or, what you awakened is not actually a holy text A power. Hearing this, Chenny spread his hands. Who knows? You'll know if you try it. As soon as the words fell, 3 shots of holy arrow came galloping, piercing Askin's chest. Askin's complexion changed drastically, and he quickly rolled on the ground clutching his chest. It hurts. Chenny, don't, I didn't want to fight with you. Seeing this scene, Chenny looked disgusted. Stop pretending. Use Spiritia as the lethal dose. Now you are already immune to the attack of spirit suns, and the holy destroying arrow can't hurt you. Hearing this, Askin was taken aback, and looked at Chenny in amazement. Excellent, you are the first person to understand my abilities so easily, but although the holy Mia can't hurt me, it still hurts to have my chest pierced. Of course he wouldn't be so stupid as to explain his abilities to others. Right now, only he knows the completely opposite ability. Of course, maybe Yuhabak also knows. After all, his soul fragment holy text A is still imprinted on Chenny's soul. No wonder His Majesty values you so much. Is this the power of the holy text A? This is too handsome. Askin couldn't help admiring. And at this time, the smile of Gremy Themius, who was lying on the ground watching this scene, became more and more perverted. Sure enough, it's just as I imagined. His holy character ability is unimaginable. Saying this, Remy Tommy's body began to crack, and he abandoned this body, and the ability of lethal dose disappeared immediately. Immediately afterwards, outside the arena, another body appeared out of thin air. However, this body did not enter the arena. He knew that if he entered it, he would suffer from the spirit seed poison and fall into the poisoned state. So, Askin, Don't get in my way. For you, I have no room for imagination. As he said that, Remy Tomao rushed towards Askin. Looking at it like that, it seems that he wants to get rid of Askin first, and then fight Chenny. However, Askin, who saw this scene, directly oiled the soles of his feet and hid directly behind Chenny. Don't, your target is him, isn't it? Chenny, help me, I was helping you just now. Seeing this scene, the corner of Chenny's mouth twitched suddenly. This guy is really a sixth child. Not to mention the insidious ability, but he is also such a 6-year-old man. Seeing this, Chenny raised his hand, just about to meet Gremy Themius. However, a hand suddenly appeared beside Chenny and grabbed Chenny. Okay, let's stop here. Chenny was taken aback, then looked back, and found that this person was none other than the head of the Star-Crossed Knights, Huge Lan Hasward. Seeing this, Chenny smiled. It has nothing to do with me. It was he who wanted to fight me. If you want to stop it, you should also stop him. Someone will deal with his words. Hasward's words just fell. Grammy Tommy's head was pierced instantly, and a huge hole appeared. And looking in the direction of the penetration, I found that the captain of the Pro Guards, Liji Baro, just put away his sniper weapon. Then, Harthward stepped out, came to the fallen Gremy Themius, and spoke. Stop imagining any more. If you don't want to be punished by His Majesty. Hearing this, Gremy Tomao didn't speak, but just disappeared into the air silently. At this moment, within the barrier of the claustrophobic room, the main body of Gremy Themius sighed, but his expression looked very excited. Almost. Why did the leader come here? It's almost, I can imagine his holy writing ability. I really want to know. I really want to keep fighting. What will his holy text be? After pacing back and forth excitedly, Gremy Themius finally regained his former composure and sat down obediently. On the other side, inside the arena, Hasward looked at Chenny with a blank expression on his face. Chenny just spread his hands in response to this. Leader, don't look at me like that, I'm just practicing the ability of holy characters. Hearing this, Hasward didn't say much, just nodded silently. It seems that your holy text ability has been awakened. It does take practice. The date of His Majesty's attack on Soul Society will not be too long. At that time, your strength will be needed. Chenny nodded and smiled. It's natural. After finishing speaking, Chenny waved to Bambietta and Goddess who were watching the battle from a distance. Gone. Seeing this, the two women walked down in a daze. At this moment, the two of them are still immersed in the shocking confrontation just now. When Chenny walked out of the arena holding their hands, they realized that they couldn't help but speak. Chenny, you're too aggressive, aren't you? Not only did he defeat the turkey man who made people angry, he even defeated His Majesty's personal guards. I've heard of that Gerald. Looking at the entire Star-Crossed Knights, he is also a monster among monsters. How did you do it? By the way, what exactly is your holy writing ability? We've been looking at it for a long time, but we couldn't figure it out. The two women chattered for a long time, as if they had endless things to say. To this, Chenny just smiled. No surprises. Anyway, the sacred text I was given is the same as Yuhabak. If I can't beat it, I will be ashamed. And I feel that my holy text ability has not been fully awakened, and there is still room for further improvement. I always feel that there is still something missing. Hearing this, Bambietta and Caddis stared wide-eyed. This level of ability is still not fully awakened. Chenny nodded. Yes, I always feel bad breath. Perhaps, my holy text is not complete. Of course, it may also be an illusion. After you are proficient in using it, you will naturally know it. Next, you will get the holy text. Hearing Chenny mention it, the two women suddenly fell silent. Chenny was a little surprised by this. When they mentioned the holy text before, they were so inflated and arrogant, with an air of who else can obtain the holy text except me. As a result, it just misfired today. Chenny presumably knew the reason, and then said, "Have you been hit?" The two were silent and did not speak, but they nodded unwillingly. Before, they had never seen the strength of Star-Crossed Knight, so they uttered nonsense. Now that they saw it, they thought Star-Crossed Knight was so fierce. It doesn't have to be like this. I let you watch the game today not to hit you. I want to tell you that Quincy masters who have obtained the ability of the holy text and those who have not obtained the holy text are of a completely different level. That's a very different concept. Hearing this, Bambiata took a look at Chenny. Chenny, do you think we can still obtain the holy text? Chenny smiled and touched the heads of the two. Definitely. I can assure you, the Star-Crossed Knights in the future must have a seat for you. And it is likely to be in the near future. Without him, Chenny has read the script. Real, the eyes of the two people brightened. Should I say it or not, simple words still give them great encouragement. Chenny nodded. That's right. So, hurry up and train, and be ready to accept the engraved holy text at any time. It seemed that they were stimulated by Chenny's words. As soon as they returned to the palace, the two devoted themselves to training, while Chenny was preparing for going to Soul Society. Chenny's holy text has not only awakened, but also gained a reputation in Silver Frame City with the record of defeating the personal guards. Presumably, there will be no short-sighted guys coming to find trouble in a short time. This way Chenny can rest assured to prepare for his check-in. Need to find Karakura town first. It's one of the heavy spirit places in the real world. If you want to find it, it must not be difficult. Thinking of this, Chenny directly opened the domain of Shadow channel and entered the shadow. Accompanied by the infusion of spirit particles, Chenny moved along the shadow, and soon noticed the two spirit particles and their dense places. One of them, Chenny felt that he could open the door, but it was locked by something. Here, it should be the shadow of Soul Society locked by Yuhabak. As for the other side, in that place, he could feel the concentration of spirit particles, but he couldn't even find the door. Maybe, this is Hueco Mundo. To enter Hueco Mundo, you need to analyze the Black Chamber, and Chenny does not have such a technology for the time being. After ruling out two places, Chenny continued to search, and soon found a ground of heavy spirits. After opening the door, Chenny entered it through the shadow. After a while, Chenny came back shaking his head. Wrong place. Continue. Chenny continued to search for the land of spiritual seeds, and kept trying. Soon, on the fourth time, he found Karakura town. Found it. The next moment, the shadow opened, and Chenny walked out of it. Here is Karakura town. It's a little different from what I imagined. Go to the Urahara store first. At this moment, the Urahara store is open as usual, and a tall man is carrying goods. Wearing a poo apron and short sleeves, with square eyes and a mustache, he looked very muscular. His name is Tessai Tsukabishi, and he is a clerk at the Urahara store. However, in fact, the original Gote 13 Chief Kido left Soul Society 100 years ago because of the Hogyoku incident and Urahara Kazuki. At this time, Urahara Kazuki walked towards the door. Suddenly, the two of them paused and looked in one of the directions in unison. Unfamiliar Reiatsu, Tessai Tsukabishi murmured. It's not like Shinigami's. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki smiled, then closed the folding fan in his hand, and said, "Oh, why do I feel like a guest is coming? Xiaoyu, Jinda, you two quickly clean up the door." As he said that, Urahara Kazuki's smile slowly faded away, and his eyes turned to the direction of the strange Reiatsu. Who is the one? As a Quincy master, Chenny's sensitivity to spirit sons is far beyond Shinigami's imagination. He thought he would have to work hard to find Urahara Kazuki, but as soon as he arrived in Karakura town, he felt a wave of Reiatsu sweeping over, stirring the spirit in the air. Almost at the moment Urahara Kazuki sensed himself, Chenny also knew Urahara Kazuki's position. Exactly. Chenny walked in the direction of Reiatsu, and soon came to the Urahara store. The entrance of the store was almost exactly the same as Chenny remembered. At this moment, there are two children cleaning in front of the door. A man and a woman. Chenny knows two people. The boy is Hanakari Jinda, and the girl is Sumiya Ururu. The identities of the two are unknown, but they have the ability to fight with Shu and Shinigami. As far as Chenny knew, these two people might be candidates for the Soul King brought out by Urahara Kazuki. Of course it's only possible. Yashira Tokunada raised this question to Urahara Kazuki, but Urahara Kazuki did not answer it but remained silent. Of course, Chenny was not interested in this either. At this moment, as if she had discovered Chenny's existence, Xiaoyu put down the broom, came to Chenny and spoke. "Welcome, guest, the store manager has been waiting for a long time. PLZ follow me." Chenny didn't engrave to hide himself. It's not surprising that he was discovered by Urahara Kazuki. Led by Xiaoyu, Chenny entered the Urahara store, walked through the long corridor, and came to the reception hall. Unlike the European-style buildings in Silver Frame City, Urahara Kazuki is in a Japanese-style way. In the living room, there are tatami mats, and in the center, there is a small table. And Urahara Kazuki was sitting directly opposite. At this moment, seeing Chenny coming, Urahara Kazuki opened the folding fan, shook it gently, and kept his eyes on Chenny's body, as if observing. "Welcome, my guest." Chenny entered the door, his eyes fell on Urahara Kazuki, and he smiled. "Nice to meet you, my name is Chenny. I came here today to ask for your help." Chenny didn't want to chatter, so she went straight to the point. "Help." Urahara Kazuki closed the folding fan, asked you to make tea, and then smiled. "You are a guest when you come, you are welcome, please sit down." Chenny immediately sat down opposite Urahara Kazuki, and said with a smile. "I've heard of you a long time ago, Urahara Kazuki." Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki was startled inside, but calm on the surface. "I didn't expect you to know me, which surprised me." Soon, the tea was served, Urahara Kazuki took a sip, Chenny didn't move. After all, Urahara Kazuki was older than Askin, and it would be best not to import things. He didn't intend to fight against Urahara Kazuki, but he couldn't be defenseless. "Mr. Chenny, I wonder if there is anything I can do to help you." Chenny stretched out 2 fingers. "2 things. First, I want to separate my soul from my body. Second, I want my soul to enter Rukongai." Hearing these 2 things, Urahara Kazuki raised his eyebrows, a little horrified, and then couldn't help but said in a deep voice. "Just ask, Mr. Chenny, do you want to become a Shinigami?" Urahara Kazuki is smart. Almost the moment Chenny finished saying the 2 things, he understood Chenny's purpose. Chenny has Reiatsu, not an ordinary soul. And such a soul entering Rukongai can become a Shinigami through formal channels. That's right, Chenny didn't intend to hide either. He also knows that with the wisdom of Urahara Kazuki, he knows many things without telling him, so it is better to be more generous. How? Seeing that Urahara Kazuki hadn't spoken for a long time and was still hesitating, Chenny was also uncertain about his attitude, and then spoke again. "I know that ordinary compensation can't pay for these 2 things. So, I can promise that if you need help in the future, I can also help you with 2 things in return, of course, within my ability." Urahara Kazuki was indeed hesitating. These 2 things are not difficult for him, the key is reward and risk. In return, Chenny said it, and Urahara Kazuki felt that it was definitely not a loss. But what about the risk? After all, Chenny's origin was unknown, and he couldn't figure out Chenny's identity. Someone who has a Reiatsu, and it's not a Shinigami. First of all, Chenny is definitely not the kind of ordinary person with a high spiritual child. If these are excluded, the identities that Chenny can guess are actually very limited. The Quincy, the Fulmergence user, or something else he didn't know. However, in fact, identity and so on are secondary, and more important is the purpose. If Chenny is a dangerous guy, then letting him enter Soul Society might not be a good thing. Although right now he doesn't have a good impression of Soul Society. Thinking of this, Urahara Kazuki looked at Chenny and said seriously. "Mr. Chenny, leaving aside your identity, I don't think you will tell me easily. Can you ask me, what is your purpose of becoming a Shinigami?" "Purpose?" Chenny touched his chin, and said without hesitation. "There is no special purpose. I just want to get stronger." Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki was stunned for a moment, perhaps because he didn't expect that Chenny's purpose of speaking would be so pure. Because it was too pure, Urahara Kazuki couldn't find a place to start doubting it. Urahara Kazuki believed it tentatively, and spoke immediately. "You have Reiatsu, you are not an ordinary person, and your soul is also different, and you will generate your own spirit body through Reiatsu. It's not difficult to separate, but it may be a little painful, you have to bear it." Hearing this, Chenny was overjoyed. "So you agreed. Thank you very much." Chenny also prepared a lot of words, but he didn't expect one of them to be useless. On the contrary, Urahara Kazuki agreed after asking himself a few innocuous questions, which surprised him a bit. Chenny thought that he might have to reveal his identity as a Quincy master, but now it seems that he doesn't need to. "Thank you, no need. After all, if you keep your word, it wouldn't be a loss if you exchange these two things for favors between you. Of course, you can afford it. Urahara Kazuki didn't have much idea. Cheni Reiatsu is not considered outstanding, and many Rukongai souls will also have this level of Reiatsu, and there is nothing special about it without using power. Although his identity is mysterious, he also has a rough guess that it is nothing more than a Quincy master or a user of the full manifestation technique. Therefore, even if Rukongai Cheni really wants to cause trouble, sooner or later it will be dealt with by open black lens bracket Gote 13 close black lens bracket. Although Kuritsuchi Mayuri is a pervert, he is still very capable. After all, he is a talent who was single-handedly promoted. If you don't make trouble, it will definitely be better. Urahara Kazuki can be regarded as a disguised investment. What if you really need Cheni's help in the future? No one can tell. And at this moment, suddenly a black cat jumped out from the side, staring straight at Cheni. Cheni knew that this was no ordinary black cat. Its true identity is the captain of the former Gote 13 2nd Division. At the same time, he is also the former commander-in-chief of the Secret Maneuver, the head of the 1st unit of the Criminal Army, and the 20th second-generation head of the Shihuan family, one of the 4 nobles of the Soul Society. Her name is Shihuan Yoruichi, and she is very good at white hits and shunpo. As far as Cheni estimates, if she is graded at a systematic level, her white hits and shunpo are likely to be close to or even reach the limit level. At this moment, Yoruichi in the form of a black cat came and walked half a circle around Cheni, seeming to be sizing him up. Sorry, she's wary of strangers. Urahara Kazuki covered the part below his nose with a folding fan and watched the scene with a smile. To this, Cheni just smiled. Are you vigilant? He reached out and stroked the black cat's head, and the cat immediately wrapped around Cheni's body in a gesture of enjoyment. That body, like flowing water, was indeed in the habit of a cat. In the end, the black cat lay down and lightly bit Cheni's finger, seeming to be very intimate with Cheni. Seeing this, Cheni touched her stomach. What a cute kitten. But, it's still a female cat. Little Towsy is so cute. Cheni stroked it twice, and the black cat immediately stood up like a hop, and roared like its fur was blown all over its body. In the distance, the corners of Urahara Kazuki's mouth twitched when he saw this scene. This is really. Urahara Kazuki was a little speechless, and even thought that Yoruichi's temper was too good, and he didn't do anything to Cheni. After a while, after seeing the black cat jump away, Urahara Kazuki breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Then, Mr. Cheni, when do you want to enter Rukongai? The sooner the better, preferably now." "Huh, are you in a hurry?" Cheni nodded. There is a time limit for him to come to Karakura town through Field of Shadows. As for the limit, he does not know yet. However, once the time limit is exceeded, he will be forcibly dragged into the shadow and returned to Invisible Empire. He had already spent a lot of time going out before, and once he was dragged back, God knows when he would be able to come out again. That's a little troublesome. According to my calculations, the timing of entering Boundary is not very good right now. It should happen to be the time to clean up Jutu. Of course, it may not happen, but the probability will be much higher. It doesn't matter, I will deal with Jutu if it happens. His holy text is completely reversed enough to deal with any situation, even if he is really hit by Jutu, his ability is also enough to deal with it. Yes, I see. In this case, Mr. Cheni, please come with me. Urahara Kazuki got up, Cheni followed, and under his leadership, the two came to a secret underground space. As the steps descend step by step, the vast and boundless space is slowly revealed. Aren't you surprised? This is what I created. Urahara Kazuki smiled, and there were already people waiting in this space. Mr. Cheni, I won't gossip, I will introduce someone to you. His name is Tessai Tsukubishi, and he is my assistant. He will help you separate your soul from your body. I will prepare to open the World Transit Gate. After speaking, Urahara Kazuki lowered the brim of his hat and left. Going back to the store above, Urahara Kazuki seemed to be preparing something, but Yoruichi, who was a black cat, suddenly attacked and slapped Urahara Kazuki on the forehead, sending him flying. Urahara Kazuki patted the dust off his body, sat up and looked at Kuroniko Road. What's wrong, Miss Yoruichi? Should I ask you about this? The black cat opened its mouth and spit out human words. Why do you want to help such a guy with a lot of background to enter Soul Society? Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki smiled and asked instead of answering her question. By the way, Miss Yoruichi, do you know his identity? The black cat nodded. There are subtle traces on his fingertips, where spirits often gather. This kind of trace comes from the frequent use of the ability to gather spiritual particles, spiritual concentration. No accident, it should be the Quincy Master. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki narrowed his eyes slightly. Sure enough, so, Miss Yoruichi, don't you feel very excited? As the mortal enemy of Shinigami, the Quincy wants to become a Shinigami. You don't want to know that after becoming a Shinigami, can he still use the ability of the Quincy? Or can he combine the power of Quincy and the power of Shinigami to form a new things? Urahara Kazuki's words made the black cat's face stagnate, and it cast a glance at Urahara Kazuki and said, I probably wouldn't be surprised if it was Kuritsuchi Mayuri, the pervert scientist you brought out, but you. This reason is really bad enough. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki suddenly fell silent for a moment and then spoke seriously. What I really want to say is my intuition. Intuition. The black cat was speechless, feeling a little ridiculous. Next, Urahara Kazuki explained. Judging by Reiatsu, Mr. Chenny is quite ordinary, but I feel an inexplicable threat from him. Of course, this threat is not his malice towards us, but something deeper. The black cat narrowed its eyes slightly. You mean, what other powers does he hide? Urahara Kazuki nodded. That's right, some kind of power that I can't understand. Of course, maybe it's just my illusion. Of course, it's best not my illusion. The moment he heard this, the black cat seemed to understand something, glanced at Urahara Kazuki, and couldn't help but speak. You guy, what bad things are you holding back? How can you say it's a bad thing? Urahara Kazuki hastily retorted. It's a deal. However, Mr. Chenny wants to enter the Soul Society and become a Shinigami, so I can take advantage of it. For a moment, the black cat seemed to understand something, its pupils shrank suddenly, and it couldn't help but speak. You mean, Aizen? Urahara Kazuki nodded. It has been more than 100 years since that night. Mr. Chenny's appearance may be an opportunity for things to turn around. Of course, we don't need him to do anything, just treat it as a seed sown at will and let it go with the flow. Maybe it will be useful in the future. Black Cat remembered that Urahara Kazuki got 2 favors. She also couldn't figure out what Urahara Kazuki was thinking. However, since he has arrangements, presumably nothing big will happen. So, Miss Yoruichi, I need your help. The black cat cast a glance at Urahara Kazuki. What's wrong? Give him an identity. A strange soul enters Rukongai. It's fine if he doesn't do anything, but if he wants to become a Shinigami, he will definitely be interrogated. Look, your Shihuan family. Snapped. Before Urahara Kazuki finished speaking, the black cat kicked him in the face. I haven't been back for many years. The current patriarch is not me. So, I just want to ask you. After Urahara Kazuki left, Chenny waited for the separation of soul and body. At this moment, Tessai Tsukubishi came to Chenny and spoke calmly. Mr. Chenny, are you ready? It hurts a little bit, you may have to bear with it. Hearing this, Chenny nodded. What do I need to do? Do nothing, just be mentally prepared. Tessai Tsukubishi took 2 steps back, and took out a red-textured glove from his bosom. Chenny knew that it was Yoshiku who broke away from the glove, and could force the soul out of the body. Because you are not a Shinigami, but you have a Reiatsu, and your soul is a bit special, so the soul and body are more closely connected than ordinary people. Maybe I will be a little rude next time, please forgive me. Bring it on. Chenny took off all defenses. Of course, he is not afraid of any tricks played by the other party. The holy word A in his body is on standby at any time. If life is really threatened, his holy word will change at any time to form a natural restraint. This is also the reason why Chenny was able to come to Urahara Kazuki carelessly. His special holy text allows him to have maximum error tolerance. And just at this moment, Tessai Tsukubishi's expression froze, and he aimed directly at Chenny's forehead, and slapped out with palms. Boom! At this moment, Chenny immediately felt a tearing force, a feeling of pulling the soul. However, in fact, he didn't feel much pain. Instead, his soul and body vibrated with each other, and there was a sense of resonance. This feeling is somewhat similar to his ability to use soul resonance. In fact, he is already using soul resonance. Next moment, Chenny instantly felt his soul being shot out, and his vision noticed the change. At the same time, his body fell to the ground directly. So easy. Tessai Tsukubishi was a little appalled. Generally speaking, the soul that has never left the physical body is closely connected with the physical body. However, he didn't use much force just now, and Chenny's soul was shot out. It was as if Chenny's soul had left his body. At the same time, he glanced at Chenny's soul chest, and murmured. Sure enough, you don't have the lock of karma, you are not an ordinary soul, and you have the potential to become a Shinigami, so special. Generally speaking, when the soul leaves the body, there will be a karma link. And such souls will disappear after being sent to the Soul Society after soul burial. At that time, those who have the potential will feel hungry and gain the potential of the power of Shinigami. However, the soul of Chenny in front of him has this potential without soul burial, so there is no shackle of karma. Perhaps, it's because you have Reiatsu and use it a lot. As for your body, we can provide you with Yaikuin. Tessai Tsukubishi hadn't finished speaking. Suddenly, a pitch-black shadow grabbed Chenny's body, dragged it into it in the blink of an eye, and disappeared directly. What is this? Tessai Tsukubishi was startled, he didn't even see clearly. Seeing this, Chenny was startled. Fortunately, I did it quickly, the time for Field of Shadow had come, and I forcibly dragged him back. Fortunately, his soul had already left. It's nothing, I have a special space for my body. Hearing this, Tessai Tsukubishi was a little suspicious. That is, the result. As the head of the former Grand Kido, he didn't even see what it was. Chenny moved a little, the spirit body condensed from the pure soul still made him a little uncomfortable. Moreover, his strength is not as good as that of Quincy. I feel a little weak. Tessai Tsukubishi was speechless. It's alright, if someone else appeared in this posture, I'm afraid the breathing would be very heavy. Why? And at this moment, Yoruichi of the Black Cat suddenly jumped on Chenny's shoulder, and Urahara Kazuki came from a distance. Oh, has it become a soul body? Just right, I'm ready too. Saying that, Chenny took the Black Cat Yoruichi and walked in the direction of the sound, and then saw a huge door, and there was darkness in the door. Urahara Kazuki said, "This is a specially opened open black lens bracket boundary transmitting gate close black lens bracket." Of course, in order to avoid the eyes and ears of the open black lens bracket Soul Society close black lens bracket, a lot of measures have been taken. Therefore, the security is much worse than the ordinary open black lens bracket border transmitting gate close black lens bracket. At least, whether you can get to Soul Society depends on your luck. Urahara Kazuki said irresponsibly, then pointed to the Black Cat on Chenny's shoulder. Her name is Yoruichi, and she will guide you to open black lens bracket Soul Society close black lens bracket. Hearing this, Chenny was startled. Yoruichi wants to go with me. In this case, there is no need to doubt the safety. After all, Urahara Kazuki may cheat other people, but he will definitely not cheat his childhood friend. After going to Soul Society, I will solve your identity problem for you. At this moment, seeing Yoruichi speak, Chenny feigned shock. The cat actually started talking. Urahara Kazuki opened the fan and laughed. Of course, solving the identity problem is a free service from me. After all, you said you wanted to be a Shinigami, and if you just go in like this, you will be caught. Thank you, Chenny cupped his fists and said. Urahara Kazuki continued to remind. Entering the boundary transmitting gate is the boundary, you have to cross it, it is the overlapping of several layers of cut-off space, it is a space surrounded by the torrent of time. But don't be caught by Ju-Lu or Ju-Tu inside. If you deny it, you will get lost in it. It is a place of exile. If you get lost, you will never come back. Well, thanks for the reminder. Chenny stood in front of the open black lens bracket boundary breaker gate close black lens bracket, took a deep breath, and let it out slowly. As I said before, I owe you 2 favors, and I will definitely repay them in the future. Then I really have to look forward to it. Urahara Kazuki opened the folding fan and used it to cover his face, said with a simple smile. Immediately afterwards, Chenny stepped out in one step, directly entered the boundary transmitting gate and stepped into the boundary within. As soon as he entered it, Chenny saw a corridor-like passage. And on both sides of the passage, there are constantly wriggling walls. Don't look, let's go. Yoruichi on the shoulder reminded. This is the flow, it is the airflow that fills the boundary and can stop the movement of the soul to prevent the invasion of virtual and other foreign enemies. He can capture the spirit body made of spirit particles, don't be caught by it, denial will be lost here forever. Chenny nodded, and ran directly in the passage with Yoruichi. However, after running for a long time, Chenny did not see the exit at the end. As the boundary so long. He still remembers that when Urahara Kazuki made the boundary gate for Kurosaki Ichigo and the others, the boundary was only a short distance away. Wait, this way. Suddenly, Yoruichi spoke. Chenny was stunned for a moment, and suddenly realized that there was a fork in the road in front of him. Huh, why is there a fork in the broken world? Boundary is originally a place of exile. Since you can get lost, there must be a fork in the road. It's just that there will be no such thing in the regular world transmitting gate. Urahara Kazuki was able to create the boundary gate for you in such a short period of time, and also avoid the detection of the Seoul Society Technology Development Bureau. It is already powerful enough. Are you still complaining? Hearing this, Chenny heard the dissatisfaction in Yoruichi's tone. Suddenly an idea popped up in my mind. That. Are you angry? What? Yoruichi cast a glance at Chenny. It was little Tauzi's before. Can you say that again? For a moment, the pupils of the black cat looked like a hunter, making Chenny feel a little hairy, making the corner of his mouth twitch. No, nothing. Sure enough, I was angry. HMPH, woman, no interest. When you just touched it, you were very happy. Chenny took Yoruichi in the form of a black cat and galloped within the breakdown, and after bypassing several forks, Chenny suddenly found something was wrong. Little cat, have you noticed that these Julu around you seem to be closer to us? Don't call me kitty, call me Yoruichi. Shihuin Yoruichi. Also, as I said, Kuru can capture spirit bodies constructed in the state of spirit particles. We haven't gone out yet, and we will definitely move them. Can I speed up? Look at these things, I'm in pain. Without. As soon as Yoruichi's words came to his lips, he immediately felt that something was wrong, so he stopped immediately. Don't speed up, it's fine like this. Chenny nodded. Okay. Having said that, however, his eyes narrowed slightly, and only then did he realize that his identity as a Quincy master might have been exposed. Urahara Kazuki probably already knew the identity of his Quincy. Juliu, a spirit body that can capture spirits and constructs, must have a certain sensitivity to spirits. As a Quincy, Chenny's movement method is different from Shinigami's Shunpo, which relies on its own Reiatsu. Lynxie's high-speed sliding is no accident, and he will definitely be hunted down by Chang Lu, so Yoruichi will immediately stop Chenny from accelerating. Of course, Chenny was not surprised by the exposure of his identity. After all, there are only a few Reiatsu identities, and apart from Shinigami, the identities that can be guessed are also very limited. However, Chenny reckoned that Urahara Kazuki didn't know about the Invisible Empire and thought he was the remaining Quincy master in this world. Suddenly, at this moment, Chenny felt an inexplicable oppressive feeling behind her. Turning back suddenly, Chenny's face changed slightly. Only then did I realize that the Julu originally on both sides merged into one at some point, and surged towards Chenny like a sea wave. Hello, Yoruichi, is this thing really okay? I feel like Kuryu is chasing after me, and the speed is getting faster and faster. How can this be okay? Yoruichi's expression also changed. This isn't Changlu anymore. This is Jutu, it's Jutu. Run. Chenny was taken aback. Only then did I realize that in the fluid smoke like Julu, something like a train rushed out suddenly, very fast, and rushed straight towards Chenny. Chenny people are stupid. Kutu is different from Juliu. It is equivalent to the scavenger in Broken Boundary. It will appear once every 7 days. Cleared away. Did I remember this purpose, and I ran into this ghost thing? Yoruichi was speechless. Urahara Kazuki didn't tell you. It's time for the Jusuk event, you have to come in at this time. You mean to blame me? Chenny glanced at Yi. Yoruichi's expression changed. Don't look at me, look ahead. Jutu is coming soon. Quickly speed up, don't be caught up by this thing. Is it okay for me to speed up? Chenny stared intently at Yi. Where can you manage so much now? Okay. In an instant, the spirits under Chenny's feet gathered together, the flying sickle's feet slid past, Chenny's figure floated past in an instant, and the distance between him and Jutu was opened in the blink of an eye. Night terrors. So fast. This is enough to rival the captain of Open Black Lens Bracket Gote 13. Moreover, he was still using a spirit body he was not familiar with. Where did the Quincy come from to be so fierce? However, when Chenny accelerated his speed, the Julu on both sides also instantly surged, rushing towards Chenny and trying to swallow it. Seeing this scene, Yoruichi was immediately dumbfounded. Wait, the speed of the spiritual particles you absorbed is too fast. Kuru was drawn by you. I'm trying to control it as much as possible, is this considered fast? Chenny knew that the wave of spirit particles would attract Open Black Lens Bracket Hulu Close Black Lens Bracket, so he was already trying his best to control the speed of Open Black Lens Bracket Spirit Convergence Close Black Lens Bracket. However, his Link C concentration is really too fast. If he really doesn't control it, Julu might swallow them in an instant. For the first time, Chenny felt that the limit spiritual concentration was not a good thing. Then the exit is just ahead. Yoruichi looked happy, and then patted Chenny on the head. Sure enough, there is a bright door in Chenny, which is the end of boundary transmitting gate. Accelerate, pass. Okay. In an instant, Chenny pulled Link C and galloped past. Then, boom, Julu rushing past, directly blocking the front door. Yoruichi's eyes widened, his mouth grew long, and he froze on the spot. Chenny, you blocked the door. Didn't you tell me to speed up and rush over? Is it possible that if I speed up, I don't need to absorb spiritual particles? What should I do now? Is there any backup? Hearing this, Yoruichi glared at Chenny. You guys still have the nerve to ask me what to do. There is Juliu in the front and Jutu in the back, wait for death. The corner of Chenny's mouth twitched. This woman, in the end there is no end. He knew that with Urahara Kazuki's character, there must be someone behind him. Otherwise, with such a detour boundary, can he be so relieved to let Yoruichi follow him in for an adventure? However, Chenny didn't want to see her expression anymore. Backhand. No one is the same. Okay, I'll handle it myself. Yoruichi did have a backhand, but before she could use it, she found that Chenny suddenly led her to turn around and headed towards Open Black Lens Bracket Jutu Close Black Lens Bracket. Wait, what are you doing? You'll find out soon. Holy text changes. Holy text A. Assimilate. Complete assimilation. The moment when the holy text in Chenny's body formed a new ability. Chenny directly grabbed Yoruichi in black cat form. Don't resist me, knight. Yi, startled, couldn't help but speak. What are you up to? You'll know soon. Chenny didn't dodge or evade, and let Open Black Lens Bracket Jutu Close Black Lens Bracket be installed on her body. And when Julu landed on Chenny's body, his clothes turned into spirit particles and were swallowed up. In the next moment, he himself and Yoruichi also disappeared in Open Black Lens Bracket Kuru Close Black Lens Bracket in an instant. Yoruichi's expression changed drastically. Are you looking for death? However, next, Yoruichi looked horrified and found out immediately. Her black cat's body and Chenny's body unexpectedly turned into a fluid form together, as if they had merged into the beat flow. Boom. Open Black Lens Bracket Jutu Close Black Lens Bracket bumped over, and did not treat the two of them as other substances in the Open Black Lens Bracket boundary Close Black Lens Bracket and cleared them away. Instead they were pushed to the sides along with other Open Black Lens Bracket Julu Close Black Lens Bracket. The bodies of the two, as if turned into fluid, merged with each other, and merged into other Julu. For a moment, Yoruichi felt strange. Although there is no entity now, she feels that Chenny seems to be in her body, and she also seems to be in Chenny's body. There seemed to be no physical barrier between the two. The two are directly connected to each other, like flowing water. It was a feeling she had never experienced before. Even, she felt an inexplicable pleasure. How is this going? Chenny, what did you do to me? Yoruichi's voice trembled a little, and he almost cried out with this feeling. And Chenny had the same feeling, but he immediately knew what was going on, and then his face changed slightly. Wait. Yoruichi, don't panic, I'll take you out right away, the exit is right ahead. Chenny then suspended the fluid on Jutsu. Accompanied by the powerful speed and impact of Jutsu, the two people who would turn into fluid directly rushed out of the boundary transmitting gate. Boom. As soon as they came out of the boundary transmitting gate, the two of them instantly returned to their original bodies. Also, Yoruichi didn't turn back into a black cat this time, but into a human form. At the same time, her complexion was rosy, and she was still panting heavily. Moreover, since she has no clothes in cat form, she is still naked when transformed back, and Chenny's clothes were swallowed during the confrontation with open black lens bracket Jutsu close black lens bracket, so she has no clothes now. Ever since, the two naked people just lay together and fell into an unknown wild rape. Chenny was stunned, looked at Yoruichi, and said in horror. Night. It's like a chill came over you. Night, Yoruichi. It's like a chill came over you. When hearing Chenny say this, Yoruichi froze for a moment. For a while, I didn't realize what it meant. However, thinking of the two incarnations of her and Chenny being intertwined with each other just now, coupled with an inexplicable pleasure. Even if she was innocent, she reacted almost immediately. Immediately, his face turned red, and he looked at Chenny in horror, couldn't help clamping his legs, and said incredulously. You shivered on me. You actually shivered on me. Why can you shiver on me? Yoruichi kept murmuring, feeling dizzy in her head. The news, like a bolt from the blue, made her not recover for a long time. Chenny hurried over to touch her back and comforted her. That, I didn't mean it. It was an accident. I didn't know it was going to happen. Hearing this, Yoruichi turned his head, looked at Chenny incredulously, and stared at him intently. What do you mean by that? Accident, shirk responsibility. Does it mean that the responsibility lies with me? Responsible, I will be responsible. Chenny 357 hurriedly coaxed. He felt like Yoruichi was about to cry. Don't feel psychological pressure on this matter, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. Chenny sighed inwardly. He really didn't know that something like this would happen. Who would have thought that two people fluidly intertwined could develop like this? You don't blame anyone for this. Yoruichi suddenly jumped up and wanted to grab Chenny's collar to question, but found that Chenny was not wearing any clothes, so he grabbed his shoulder directly and said coldly. You said, you don't blame this matter, who do you blame? It's not like I can't do anything about the sudden arrival. But you also said, Chenny muttered softly. Yoruichi immediately twitched the corner of his mouth, let go of his hands, and Chenny fell to the ground with a snap. Immediately afterwards, Yoruichi raised his hands and snapped his fingers, showing an extremely annoyed look. However, she saw that Chenny had set his eyes on her. She didn't care about this kind of thing at first, but what happened just now, being watched by Chenny now made her feel very uneasy, her face turned red, subconsciously covered the pressure. Get me a suit. Chenny looked around. Where can I get it for you in the wilderness? Hee, don't pretend, I just learned about it in Boundary. You, as a Quincy master, are basically solid enough to make people feel terrible, so you can't build it. Compared with Invisible Empire, Soul Society is almost pure Spirit Sun, even Shinigami's body is constructed of Spirit Sun. Hearing this, Chenny sighed. Actually, Soul Society's spiritual particles are not as dense as you imagined. Ordinary Quincy masters can't do it. Chenny said, seeing Yoruichi glaring at him, he quickly shut up, constructed two sets of clothes with open black lens bracket Spiritia concentration close black lens bracket, and then put them on. Obviously, Chenny is no ordinary Quincy. After putting on his clothes, Yoruichi glanced at Chenny, and then spoke. You can't bring this up with a third person. Did you hear me? Chenny nodded. Okay, I promise you, but you have to promise me too. What's up? Don't you change from a cat to a human in front of other people. Hearing this, Yoruichi suddenly remembered what happened just now, adding that she was always naked in front of Chenny, which made her feel inexplicably embarrassed. Thinking of this, she gritted her teeth suddenly. Not anymore. It's impossible. I haven't changed back to human form for many years, and this kind of thing happened once I changed back. Yoruichi gritted his teeth. I thought to myself, Urahara Kazuki, it's all your fault, why did you ask yourself to follow me? At this time, Chenny suddenly leaned over, came to Yoruichi's side, and said. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Yoruichi glanced at him. Responsible? What are you responsible for? I'm in a safe period, and I have nothing to take responsibility for. Let's have fun when you're happy. Hearing this, Chenny glanced at Yi, and couldn't help muttering something. Aren't you very happy at that time? What did you say? It's nothing, as long as you are happy. Chenny spread his hands. By the way, Yoruichi, where is this? God knows where this is. Yoruichi sighed. We didn't pass through the boundary transition gate normally, but were knocked out by Jutsu. It's normal to deviate from the original trajectory. Looking around, this place is barren, like a piece of dry land. After walking for a long time, they saw a street appearing, and after a little inquiry, they found out that this is the noodles seeking area in District 64. Next, I'm going to go home and inform someone to solve your identity problem. You just stay here and wait for me, you know. Yoruichi glanced at Chenny and found that Chenny was looking into the distance. Did you hear that? Chenny nodded. Heard it. I might go somewhere myself, though. Yoruichi remembered the place where Chenny wanted to stay, and asked immediately. More area. Why do you go to that place? The law and order there is very bad. Hearing this, Chenny smiled, grabbed Yoruichi's hand, and said. Are you worried about me? Of course, I can wait for you to come back and let you go with me. Yoruichi quickly withdrew his hand, his face turned red, and he couldn't face the man who took her away, and said. Who wants to accompany you? Go yourself. After finishing speaking, she turned around and stepped out, and disappeared in an instant, so fast that Chenny couldn't even feel the wave of the spirit. What a speed! A true flash goddess. After Yoruichi left, Chenny also went to the Zaraki area of the 80th area to sign in. Rukongai can be divided into 4 orientations, southeast, northwest, and each orientation has 80 districts. The larger the number of the area, the farther it is from Seraite, and the worse the living standard and public security. Therefore, in the Zaraki district of the 80th district, almost no grass grows, the famine is everywhere, and the souls of each person kill each other to decide who gets the right to live. Chenny moved forward all the way, towards the end of the wilderness. And along with his progress, the surrounding environment is getting worse and worse. After exceeding the 70 districts, corpses can even be seen everywhere on the road. Chenny would be attacked just by walking on the road, but these people were limited in strength and could not pose any threat to Chenny at all. Soon, Chenny came to the Zaraki district in the 80th district. Here, it almost became a battlefield, and people were fighting everywhere. When someone saw Chenny, he rushed up immediately and slashed at Chenny, but Chenny pushed it away casually, and bounced him away with his fingers. Chenny with blood equipment can't break the defense at all here. Here, Chenny felt the spirit and found the densest place. Ding! Congratulations to host for arriving at the check-in location, and the check-in starts now. 10 seconds to sign in. If you quit halfway, it will be considered a failure. Sign in now. At this moment, even though there were people rushing over to chop Chenny, he didn't care about it anymore, only the countdown of the system was in his ears. When the last second rang. Ding! Congratulations to host, the sign-in is successful. Sign-in reward. Unlimited spiritual power and consummation Reiatsu. Ding! Congratulations to host, the sign-in is successful. Sign-in reward. Unlimited spiritual power and consummation Reiatsu. The moment the system's reward notification fell, Chenny instantly felt the azure blue berserk spiritual seeds pouring down like a waterfall in his body. Although there are people with strong Reiatsu in Quincy, but that is not Chenny's strong point, and Quincy does not rely on Reiatsu to fight, so Reiatsu has always been Chenny's weak point. However, at this moment Chenny felt that there seemed to be an inexhaustible spiritual force in his body, like a vast ocean, pouring out from his body unstoppably, moving towards all directions. This majestic spiritual power erupted with a shocking impact and directly knocked away the few people who were closer to Chenny. Boom boom boom. The eruption of spirit particles instantly attracted the attention of most souls in the Zaraki area. What is that? What a crazy burst of spiritual power. Who is that? Have you awakened your power? Accompanied by the gushing of spiritual power, followed by the terrifying pressure falling from the sky, instantly suppressing all wandering souls within the visible range. Boom! This powerful force oppressed all the wandering souls present. They bent their knees and fell to their knees on the ground. Some people even crawled completely and could not move. Before that, they were still fighting each other, like evil spirits who gave up their lives. However, right now their eyes no longer have the previous violence in their eyes, and all that remains is terror. No one knows what this horrible sense of oppression is. Only a few people reacted, their expressions were horrified. This is Reiatsu. Why is there such a horrible Reiatsu suppression? The Zaraki area is notoriously chaotic. The people who can fight here, the level of spiritual power is not too bad. Even if there are people with powerful Reiatsu, it is not uncommon. However, the sudden appearance of Reiatsu almost shattered their souls. Terrible. And at this moment, only Chenny stands in the center of the Zaraki area, feeling this vast power. Infinite spiritual power and consummation Reiatsu. Spirit power, that is, the number of spirit particles in the body. Reiatsu is the density of spirit particles. At this moment, the infinite spiritual power provided Chenny with a steady supply of strength, and the inexhaustible source of power surrounded the full-level Reiatsu so that Chenny could regain the ranks of Shinigami captains. If you convert it over, it can also be said that this is open black lens bracket unlimited Reiatsu close black lens bracket. Because Chenny's Reiatsu was very weak before, he might at most be equivalent to Gotei 13's chief executive, not even the vice captain. At this moment, such powerful spiritual power and the explosive emergence of Reiatsu made it difficult for Chenny to control in the first place. He didn't take the initiative to release Reiatsu, but just exposing Reiatsu unconsciously is enough to crush the wandering souls in a larger area. However, at this moment he felt that he couldn't hold Reiatsu anymore and needed to release it once. I can't help it, just try to see where the limit is. Chenny waved his hand, deliberately controlling the spirit power to directly knock away the wandering souls who were too close to him, blasting out the coverage area of his own Reiatsu, so as not to be affected by his own Reiatsu. Get out! Accompanied by Chenny's soft fall, the Liuhunmen who had been liberated from Reiatsu's heavy pressure fled one after another, their eyes terrified. However, there are always a few who are not afraid of death, and they are already red-eyed after living a life of licking blood at the edge of a knife. Instead of fleeing now, they rushed over to fight Chenny. Since you don't know how to cherish, don't blame me, I gave you a chance. Many people in the Zaraki district would give up their lives to fight. Zaraki Kenpachi came out of here, a fighting maniac. It's a pity that these people have enough courage, but their strength is far behind. The next moment, Chenny's eyes erupted with a ray of light. He concentrated his thoughts, and directly released Reiatsu with all his strength. Boom! The majestic Reiatsu seemed to be swept by like a tsunami, smashing to the ground with a terrifying momentum. The few wandering souls rushing towards Chenny were crushed to the ground almost instantly. Their souls were crushed and deformed, and before they even had time to shout, the souls were crushed and turned into scorpions and scattered in the air. Chenny opened his eyes, seeing that even the ground collapsed under the pressure of Reiatsu, which made his heart agitated. Captain Class Reiatsu. No, this Reiatsu must surpass the average captain. Based on the classification of the system, the Grandmaster level should be the ordinary captain level, and the consummation should be above the general captain level, at least in the ranks of century-old captains. Of course, there must be a gap with the above extreme captains, such as Aizen and Reiatsu of Yamamoto Mo Toyanagi Shigekuni. Not to mention this side. At the moment, within Seraite, the sudden emergence of this unfamiliar Reiatsu immediately attracted the attention of many people. In the team building of the 5th Division, a man wearing a white captain's uniform and black-framed eyes, who looked very gentle and elegant, was really practicing calligraphy. At this moment, he seemed to have noticed something, put down the brush and went to the window, looking at the direction of North Rukongai. A trace of surprise flashed on the originally calm eyes. In just an instant, the elegance before was restored. Unfamiliar strong Reiatsu, interesting. At this time, the door was knocked suddenly, and a female voice came from the door. Captain Aizen. The chief captain suddenly asked for a captain's meeting. Aizen pushed his glasses, opened the door and walked away. Looking at his vice captain in front of him, he smiled. Let's go. Hinamori. A moment later, Yinning of the Japanese team. Open black lens bracket Gote 13 close black lens bracket. All the captains have assembled, and even Jashiro Yukitaki, who has been absent for many years due to physical reasons, has come to participate. The captain of the first team also serves as the general captain of Gote 13. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni stands in the center with crutches, and on both sides, 12 captains stand on both sides. Boom! Suddenly, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni moved his cane and spoke calmly. Today, a captain's meeting was suddenly called. I think you all know it well. Half an hour ago, a strong reiatsu erupted suddenly in the area north of Rukongai. Roughly estimated, it should be outside the 70th district. It's so far away, but we can clearly perceive it, which is enough to show that this reiatsu is probably above the captain's level. Although it does not threaten Seraite as Gote 13, it is impossible to let such a powerful reiatsu go unnoticed. Now, I am going to send an investigation team there. If it is not an enemy, it can be recruited into the team. If it is an enemy, it will be killed immediately without hesitation. Do you have any objections, captains? After the voice fell, Yamamoto Yuanryusai Shigekuni circled around, and no one answered. He nodded and tapped his cane on the ground. So, for the investigation force personnel. Suddenly, one of the captains on both sides came out. Old man, let me go. Zaraki Kenpachi grinned, very excited, full of fighting spirit all over his body. I am most familiar with the area outside the 70th district of North Rukongai. How can I be absent from this kind of thing? In comparison, Zaraki Kenpachi came all the way from the Zaraki area, and he is indeed the most familiar with that area. Hearing this, Unohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th division opposite, showed a smile. Captain Zaraki is as energetic as ever. However, the investigation was the main focus before, and it was impossible to judge whether the target was false or a disaster brigade. There is a high possibility that it is not the enemy. Zaraki Kenpachi glanced at Unohana Retsu, but did not speak. On the other hand, Yamamoto Motoryusai in the center opened his eyes and said in a deep voice. The captain of the 4th team is right. In unnecessary circumstances, there is no need to fight, and you are not allowed to go. This time the investigation team is led by Kiraku Shunsui, the captain of the 8th division of the intelligence team, Hitsugaya Toshiro, the captain of the 10th division of the patrol guard, and Ichimaru Jin, the captain of the 3rd division of the support team. The rest of the captains must not relax, and be prepared to resist threats at any time. Above. As the meeting over. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.